Security Advisor John Bolton said he is prepared to testify before a Senate trial of the president if he has issued a subpoena to appear. No trial date has yet been set in the Senate. President Trump says Iran will never get a nuclear weapon, but Iran says it will no longer abide by terms of the 2015 agreement that Trump withdrew the U.S. from. In Tehran, correspondent Fred Pleitkin says the U.S. killing of Iraq's top military leader brought more than 1 million protesters out onto the streets today.
They want revenge. Now, the Iranians, of course, said they want to take revenge. They want to take revenge on American military sites. They haven't said when that's going to be, but certainly judging from the anger that we've been seeing on the streets here in Tehran, people want that here as fast as possible.
President Trump is threatening Iraq with sanctions after a parliament vote calling for the removal of U.S. forces. We get more from correspondent Jimana Karaja in Baghdad.
Kataib Hezbollah, that Iranian-backed paramilitary group, just a short time ago, their spokesman says that if the United States is threatening Iraq economically, they will respond working with their friends, as he calls it, to disrupt the flow of oil in the Persian Gulf.
The U.S. military has stepped up force protection inside Iraq. With more than 80 women around the world accusing Harvey Weinstein of sexual misconduct, the disgraced movie mogul goes on trial in New York today for rape and other sex crimes. Actress Rosanna Arquette attending the trial.
The truth will prevail. And whether it is this trial or in the future, Harvey will be held accountable for his actions.
On Wall Street, the Dow was down 61, S&P down 2. I'm Mike Moss.
This report sponsored by Staples. The accident on the 215 Southern Beltway eastbound at Buffalo is causing slowing. Also, the crash 15 south at Sahara and 15 south at Flamingo. Both of those accidents are off to the right. Highway Patrol also with the accident 95 southbound at Lake Mead Boulevard that was blocking the left lane and creating a heavy slowing pattern now from Ann Road all the way down to the scene. No further delays out of the Rainbow Curve. An easy drive over to the Spaghetti Bowl from there. At Staples, there's a whole lot more in store, like a huge selection of ink and toner in stock and at low prices. Every day, stock up for the new year at Staples. I'm John Michaels from the KDON Traffic Center.
This holiday season, get the rest you deserve with Helix Sleep. Helix makes personalized mattresses to fit your unique body type and sleep preferences and give you the best sleep of your life. Go to helixsleep.com and get up to $200 off during their holiday sale.
Hi, Saver. Walgreens here. We like the way you save. Take coffee. You know it doesn't have to cost $4 a cup, so you make your own. And co-pays on Medicare Part D. You save up to $5 and get 100 Balance Rewards points on each prescription when Walgreens is your preferred pharmacy. Save smartly on Med D. Walgreens. Trusted since 1901. Copay savings on Tier 1 generic drugs available through select plans that include Walgreens as a preferred pharmacy. Points cannot be earned in Arkansas, New Jersey, or New York. Complete details at walgreens.com/balance.
If you're one of the millions of Americans who owes back taxes, if you get nervous when the mail comes because you might get a letter from the IRS, then you've heard. Their enforcement agents are cracking down this year and can garnish your paycheck, levy your bank accounts. Even your home or business could be at risk over unpaid taxes. It's all true, but it's also true there's a way out. It's called the Fresh Start Initiative, an important government program for tax debt assistance. The award-winning experts at Optima Tax Relief will fight to get you the best deal possible, protecting your paycheck and your assets from IRS collections. But don't delay, because the IRS is tacking on interest and hefty penalties every single day. So don't wait until it's too late. Call Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-375-2922. 800-375-2922. 800-375-2922.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
I'm Jim Snyder.
And I'm Marie Mortera. We want to thank you for making News 3 your #1 choice for news.
Every weeknight at 11, you can count on us to have the big story of the day.
Plus breaking news that matters to you.
Jim Snyder and Marie Mortera. News 3 live at 11.
SportsX Radio Nation, what's up? It's Ken Thompson, host of SportsX Radio, reminding you to catch me at my new time, 8 to 10 p.m. for all the local Vegas sports coverage, plus the national scene as well. That's SportsX Radio on the new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDWN.
The new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON. The opinions of the hosts on KDWN are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of this station, its management, or Beasley Media Group. Right now, The day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
What's up, everybody? Welcome. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro on a Monday. Glad you could join us. I'm sure y'all missed us over the weekend. Why am I saying y'all? The rodeo left town already, didn't it? Anyway, welcome
You've said
back.
it 3 times.
Welcome back to the show. That's the voice of J.D. Sharp. I am Brian Shapiro, and we got a lot to get to today, a lot to go over, including somebody putting an $80 million bounty on Donald Trump's head in Iran, and an American comedian making a joke about that, saying he would do it for $40 million. We'll talk about that. It's ridiculous. Coming up here in about 10 minutes, Micheal Avenatti will be joining us at the bottom of the hour. Oh, boy, do we have a lot to get to with him in regards to not just this impeachment stuff, the legalities of that, but the legalities of what took place in Iran with General Salami, as I like to call him. That's what I'm going to refer to him now, General Salami, because that's what his body looks like in regards to that situation. And now the president wants to go after historical sites in Iran, thinks that's totally okay, even though it is completely against the law. I just want to get into the legalities of that with Micheal Avenatti. And also, there was a judgment in the Nike case against Micheal Avenatti. He has been tweeting about it, and we will ask him about it coming up here in just a little bit. Hour number 3. Didn't really get to this on Friday, but I want to talk about this. Gerard Gallant, the head coach of the Vegas Golden Knights, losing his cool, leaving a press conference angry, and what a shocker. I haven't really seen anybody in the media putting any accountability on Gerard Gallant. As I like to call him, one of the writers for the Review Journal, I like to call him Ed the Ass Kisser. I'll be explaining why his article is just that coming up in hour number 3. You heard about this hockey coach, Jim Montgomery, who got fired. They're now saying that, he's in alcohol. What do you call that? Alcohol rehabilitation, alcohol abuse. But they're still not saying what he did. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Brett Smiley going to be joining us in hour number 3 as well. More states in this country are legalizing gambling. What does that mean for Las Vegas? We'll talk to Brett coming up here in just a little bit. A lot of NFL to get to in hour number 3 as well, and a little bit of college basketball. UNLV with another pretty good win over the weekend against Air Force. So we'll get to all that stuff coming up here in just a little bit. But I want to start off with the Golden Globe. As you know, the biggest stars in TV and film gathered in Beverly Hills, kicking off the 2020 award season with the highly coveted Golden Globes. And Ricky Gervais certainly wasted no time laying into Hollywood, or as I would like to say, the Hollywood elite. Now, a lot of people, we had Mr. X, the Hollywood conservative, on the show last week, and a lot of people thought this award show would be nothing but liberalism at its finest, going after Donald Trump. No, it was actually quite the opposite. And I explain what that means. Let's start with a cut that I want to play from Ricky Gervais last night, roasting Hollywood in his opening monologue. This is the opening monologue at the Golden Globes.
If you do win an award tonight, don't use it as a platform to make a political speech, right? You're in no position to lecture the public about anything. You know nothing about the real world. Most of you spent less time in school than Greta Thunberg. So, if you win, right, come up, accept your little award, thank your agent and your God, and so it's already 3 hours long. This show should just be me coming out going, well done, Netflix, you win everything. Good night. But no, we got to drag it out for 3 hours. You could binge watch the entire first season of Afterlife. That's a show about a man who wants to kill himself because his wife dies of cancer. And it's still more fun than this, okay? Spoiler alert, season 2 is on the way. So in the end, he obviously didn't kill himself. Just like Jeffrey Epstein. Shut up. I know he's your friend, but I don't care.
That's awesome. Ricky Gervais is fantastic. And I think if you're going to make fun of Donald Trump, if you're going to make fun of Republicans, if you're going to make fun of the right, you have to be able to make fun of yourself and make fun of the left. And nobody can claim that didn't happen. Now, of course, actor Joaquin Phoenix, who is an unbelievable actor, did a fantastic job in the movie The Joker. He actually went after Hollywood hypocrites who support climate change. Have a listen to this.
But I think together, hopefully, we can be unified and actually make some changes. It's great to vote. But sometimes we have to take that responsibility on ourselves and make changes and sacrifices in our own lives. And I hope that we can do that. We don't have to take private jets to Palm Springs for the awards sometimes or back, please. And I'll try to do better, and I hope you will too. Thank you so much for putting up with me. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for this night and all of you. Thank you.
Private jets to Palm Springs. That was a cheap shot to some of the liberals that were in the audience. I thought it was kind of funny. But listen, nobody on the right can say that, people were going after Trump. In fact, really nobody went after Donald Trump. They didn't talk about Iran. They didn't talk about the impeachment process. They didn't talk about who I like to, describe him as the scumbag, the president of the United States. Nobody did that. So I'm sorry, but you people on the right that are just so disappointed, I'm sure, this wasn't that way. Gervais was the opposite, and I think it was a nice change of pace. I thought he did a good job. I thought it was extremely funny, and he's right. These award shows go way, way, way too long, and they're boring as hell. I never watch them because they're boring, but Gervais gave me a reason to watch now, and I hope other comedians take after him and go after liberals. If you're going to go after people on the right and Donald Trump, I got no problem with that, but it would be also nice once in a while if you had people up there like Ricky Gervais going after liberals as well. Let's get both sides of the aisle. Let's do cheap shots on both sides of the aisle. And listen, if you can't take it and you can't make fun of yourself, then you shouldn't be there to begin with, and you have no idea what comedy is. However, coming up next, I'm going to talk to you about one comedian. His name is George Lopez. The controversial comments he made, and you're not going to believe it, and it has to do with somebody assassinating Donald Trump. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we will be talking about that and why I think George Lopez owes everybody, including the president of the United States, an apology. Take a quick break. Be back right after this. You're listening to the Vegas Take right here on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN.
You know, Tempur-Pedic mattresses are the best on the planet. Hi, I'm Dave Mizrahi, owner of Best Mattress, your Tempur-Pedic elite retailer. To be a Tempur-Pedic elite retailer, you have to have the best selection, the highest customer satisfaction, and the most rigorous employee training. And buddy, we got them all. Experience what elite is all about and get 72 months no interest financing, free delivery, and a $300 gift with the purchase of any Tempur-Pedic mattress. Best Mattress. Sleep easy, friends. See store for details.
Hi, Saver. Walgreens here. We like the way you save. Take coffee. You know it doesn't have to cost $4 a cup, so you make your own. And co-pays on Medicare Part D. You save up to $5 and get 100 Balance Rewards points on each prescription when Walgreens is your preferred pharmacy. Save smartly on Med D. Walgreens. Trusted since 1901. Copay savings on Tier 1 generic drugs available through select plans that include Walgreens as a preferred pharmacy. Points cannot be earned in Arkansas, New Jersey, or New York. Complete details at walgreens.com/balance.
1 in 3 adults in America have pre-diabetes, but most don't know it. To let people know it can be reversed before it becomes type 2 diabetes, professional basketball player Julius Randle is doing everything in reverse.
I'm only dunking with reverse windmills. I drove the whole way to practice in reverse. I don't recommend it. This move's called the reverse shuffle. I do recommend it. And it took me months to learn how to speak in reverse, like this. Years 10 almost for diabetes type 2 with living Ben has mama. In other words, my mom has been living with type 2 diabetes for almost 10 years. So together, we want to say to the 84 million Americans at risk, exercise and healthy eating can help reverse prediabetes. Start by taking a simple 1-minute risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
Bet he can't say that in reverse.
Sean Hannity, weekdays noon to 3 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro on a Monday. Glad you could join us. Nothing like a little Bush, a little Gavin Rossdale to wake you up in the morning, folks. Good to be back after a fun weekend. Actually saw the Adam Sandler movie over the weekend. I thought it was really good, by the way. It was a really good movie. Check it out. Guy plays a Jewish compulsive gambler. No, I'm not talking about myself, so stop those thoughts there. Could be, but he could have played me.
There's definitely some parallels with his character and your personal
life. There might be a few. But anyway, the reason why I bring up that movie It's because there's another comedian in Hollywood who said some controversial things. Let me digress here real quickly. So there was a eulogy spoken at General Salami's funeral. Of course, his real name is Soleimani, but I just choose to call him Salami. So at the funeral, a eulogist made an inappropriate comment. And does somebody have their phone on? What am I listening to in the studio? What was that? JD, what are you doing? What are you doing? Are you serious? Are you playing a YouTube video while we're on the air? Just say yes or no.
I was uploading the live stream to look at it.
All right, fine.
And my phone happened to be on kind of loud, but now it's off.
Okay, it was a distraction.
So you heard it for about we'll call 1.5 seconds. Brian.
Wait, you on your phone?
Is your day ruined?
You on your phone during the show? Geez, that never happens. I'm just shocked. Shocked to hear that. What are you giving me this blank stare for? I'm sorry, it distracted me. I was distracted.
You have the attention span of a gnat.
Says the guy who's on his phone 3 hours a day. Okay, fine. Fine.
Yeah, I can multitask.
You're right.
There is a difference.
You're right. Go ahead. Play your YouTube videos.
I'm fine.
Why don't you watch some porn while you're at it during the show? Go ahead. Be my guest. The porn awards are coming up. You're just prepping for it. I understand.
Again,
go ahead.
I uploaded the live stream.
Do you watch porn on your video on your phone, by the way?
Do I?
Yeah.
No. Do you?
Hold on a second. You've never hold on. I'm going to ask you a question right now. I want an honest answer. We're talking about General Salami, a very serious situation here, but look at me in the eye and tell me you have never looked or watched any porn on your phone, on your cell phone, at any time in your life.
You didn't ask me that.
Okay, well, I'm asking you that now.
I thought you asked me, do I watch porn on my phone while we're doing the show?
I revised the question.
In studio.
I revised the question. Have you ever looked at porn on your cell phone video ever in your life?
How is that relevant at all?
It's not relevant to what we're talking about, but I'm punishing you anyway for playing a video while I was talking.
Because
so
you were distracted for approximately 1.5 seconds.
Okay, so for 1.5 seconds,
and your attention span is that
that's fine.
That's a gnat.
That's very fair.
That's gnat with a G.
We'll move on if you could give me a 1.5 second answer. Have you ever watched porn on your cell phone at any point in your life?
I have.
Okay, that's it. That's all you had to say. Thank you for the answer. Now we can move on. You see how happy I am now? I got you to be honest and answer that question. What kind of porn was it? Was it like man on man, woman on woman? Was it, can you answer that for us? What type of porn was it? Were there animals involved? I'm sorry, that's a horrible joke. No, I'm being serious though. I'm curious. Like, do you have a famous star? We've had a lot of AVN porn celebrities in studio before. Was it Evan Stone? Who was it?
It was based in West Hartford, Connecticut.
Where I'm from, you're trying to make a joke. So you're not going to answer the question seriously. It was obviously a woman.
Senior citizen based West Hartford, Connecticut.
So you're making a joke in reference to saying you were watching My Family in a porn. My family were never in a porn. I'm sure they would appreciate that sentiment, but they've never done a video as far as I know. So you're not going to answer the question. You're not going to tell me what kind of porn you've seen.
It is so irrelevant.
I think it's extremely
so
irrelevant.
Extremely irrelevant.
I want to know what type of porn JD watches on his cell phone. I think it's very relevant. Would you like me to move on?
I would.
Okay, then I will abide by your wishes. All right. Going back to what we were talking about earlier, obviously it's a tough transition. But General Salami, as you know, was killed last week, and there's a lot of people in Iran, in Iraq, in the Middle East in general that are not very happy with Donald Trump for a lot of different reasons. And by the way, Micheal Avenatti will be joining us just coming up here in about 15 minutes to talk about this. But a eulogist was speaking at General Salami's funeral and reportedly told the crowd that each of the country's 80 million citizens contributed $1. There'd be an $80 million reward for anyone who brings us Trump's head, which is a very serious thing to say. You're talking about taking out the president of the United States, which certainly, listen, you're not going to find anybody that dislikes Donald Trump more than I do, but I would never, ever want that to happen. I would never joke about anyone taking out the president. I remember when Kathy Griffin held the president's severed head, and that completely ruined her career. I spoke out about that, completely inappropriate and wrong. There are certain lines that you do not cross, and that is certainly one of them, when you joke around about executing the president. So George Lopez took to Twitter, and he said, we'll do it for half. Basically saying that I'll execute the president for $40 million. Now, do I think he was serious? No, of course not. But that is not a funny joke. To me, there's nothing funny about making a joke about the president's, losing his life. That's not funny. It's just not, it's not appropriate, I guess, what I'm trying to say. So George Lopez, to me, owes the president of the United States an apology. Look, the president never apologizes for anything, literally. He never apologizes for anything. But this is wrong, and it just gives Republicans, people on the right, supporters of Donald Trump, fuel to the fire to go after liberals, to go after liberal Hollywood. George Lopez made a very big mistake, and he needs to apologize for that. There's no question about it. But I do find it interesting that, people on the right that are, whether they're journalists or in the media, idiots like Charlie Kirk, you can't be more partisan than that nut job, is talking about all the people that Obama killed, and he's saying Trump used one surgical strike to kill the world's leading sponsor of terror. What are we all supposed to do? Are we all supposed to believe the intelligence? Is that what we're all supposed to do? We're all supposed to assume, well, this guy Salami, who we know was a horrible guy and a murderer, well, our intelligence must be right. Do we understand as a nation that there are still brave women and men in uniform that are dying in Afghanistan, in Iraq, because of the horrible mistake that George W. Bush and his administration made in going into the war? Do we understand that? Do we understand that the war in Iraq was based on faulty intelligence? There are conspiracy theorists out there that say, well, no, they were going into Iraq for other reasons and they made up the weapons of mass destruction. I'm not about to go that far, but certainly at minimum, it was a war that should have never happened. On faulty intelligence, we never found weapons of mass destruction. We found Saddam Hussein in a hole with a candy bar and a pellet gun. And you're going to tell me he was a threat to this nation? I want every specific out there. I don't stop it with, well, Pompeo, you can't do it. It's classified. All we know is that he was planning attacks on people. I want to know everything because I don't trust Pompeo. I don't trust our government. I want to know everything. And at the very minimum, Congress deserves to know everything. And based on some of the reports out there, there are some Democrats that are already saying it was not justified. And just because, listen, I wish not one American was killed to this bastard Salami. I wish not one American lost his life. Do not get me wrong. But with that being said, it might not justify killing this guy because we might be in that region for the next 20 years. And is it worth it? Is it worth it if thousands of troops die? Is it worth it? Tens of thousands of innocent Iraqis have died because of the Iraqi war. Thousands of American soldiers have died because of that war, that ill-advised war. And now all of a sudden Republicans once again are going to stand up and say, this guy, the intelligence has to be right? It can't be wrong. We can't question the intelligence. Listen, it's one thing to question the intelligence if you're an American when it comes to war. It's another thing when you're standing on a stage with an evil, murderous dictator and you take their word over our intelligence. Do you see the distinction here? That's what Donald Trump did with Vladimir Putin. That's what Donald Trump has done with Kim Jong-un. When it came to Russian interference, he took Putin's word over our own CIA. You see that the correlation I'm making here? Donald Trump takes the word of Vladimir Putin over our own CIA and our own intelligence. But when it comes to this attack on Salami, oh no, the intelligence absolutely has to be right. Do you see the hypocrisy that's going on in this White House? Do you understand where I'm going with this? Kim Jong-un couldn't have been responsible for Otto Warmbier's death. We believe Kim Jong-un. Vladimir Putin couldn't have been responsible for Russian interference in our elections, even though our own intelligence tells us something different. But when it comes to this so-called intelligence, and by the way, we don't have any of the information, but when it comes to this so-called intelligence that this guy was apparently planning attacks on Americans, we have to believe it. Trump has to believe it, right? You know why? Do you know why he has this attitude? Because it makes him the tough guy. It makes him the war president, and he believes it'll help him in the election. That's what I believe. That's what I believe. The hypocrisy of this White House is unbelievable. And now he wants to go after historical landmarks in other countries. Does he not understand that is completely 100% against the law? Why would he say that? Why would he say that, JD? Why does he think it's okay to go after historical landmarks in other countries? Does he not think this is another example of how the law doesn't apply to the president of the United States? Or at least he doesn't think that. Explain that to me.
He said he was targeting those 52 locations.
Which is illegal. You can't do that. It is against the law. Why would he say that? Why would he make statements saying that, he doesn't agree with the law? That's what he said. I'm paraphrasing here, but he basically said it doesn't make any sense. No, it does make sense. There's reason why those laws were put in place. Why would he do that? Why would he say it's okay?
He is warning Iran and informing Congress that if Iran responds in any degree with their military, the United States will do the same.
Of course they're going to respond with their military.
5 times 10 times as aggressive, and they have spots specifically set up to attack.
Of course they're going to respond militarily. There's no question that Iran is going to respond militarily. They've said it a gazillion times. Of course they're going to do it. My question is
Trump,
why?
And Trump is saying, okay, well, once you do that, then we've already picked out these 52 targets that we're going to respond again with you on.
Which is completely 100% against the law. You're not allowed to do that. It's against the law.
You're not allowed to attack
Not historical, not historic.
Who has attacked you?
No, I didn't say that. You're allowed to attack a country if, the approval is given, but you're not allowed to attack historical landmarks. There are laws put in place for that, and there are reasons for that. Why, you're talking about historical landmarks. That's what we're talking about here. Now, we're not talking about, a war.
What if they attack a United States historical landmark? Then can the United States attack an Iranian historical landmark?
Well,
what if they attack the White House?
First of all, they haven't done that. What do you mean? What do you mean attack the White House?
Maybe they have intel that they were trying to attack the White House.
There's absolutely no proof to back up that conclusion.
We don't know what I'm saying maybe, Brian. We don't know what the intel is. We have no idea.
They said they were planning attacks on Americans. If they were planning an attack on the White House, I'm sure by now Pompeo would have said that. They have not given any more details to the public. In fact, they've given very few details to Congress, and I want to know why. And I'm telling you, they send troops overseas. I think those families deserve to know. They deserve to know more specifics. There's no question about that. There are hundreds of thousands of people marching in Iran, burning American flags. Do I feel bad for Salami, General Salami? Of course not. I don't feel bad for him. I don't feel bad for his family. And that daughter who says, death to America, I would say to that daughter, do you realize your father was a frickin' murderer? Your father murdered innocent Americans. Does she not understand that? Of course she understands that. And that's what I would say to her face.
Not just innocent Americans, innocent Iranians. I mean, innocent.
Well, of course, but that's not
civilians from all over the world.
Everybody.
In many parts of the Middle East.
There's not anybody
he was also closely connected with a lot of terrorist organizations.
There's not anybody, well, do you understand that he was also responsible for taking out ISIS? See, nobody wants to talk about that. He was one of those people that helped take out ISIS. The president won't talk about that, though. And I'm not saying this was a good guy, and I'm not saying this was a guy that defended America, because he didn't, but he did help in taking out ISIS. That is 100% factual, and even Pompeo agrees on that one. Was he a murderer? Did he kill innocent people? Absolutely. Do I feel bad for his death? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I wish they put every piece of his body and sent it to his family. Absolutely. I don't feel bad for him, and I don't feel bad for his family because they're murderers as far as I'm concerned. But does it justify what Donald Trump did? My response to that initially would be no. And now, and like I said, I go back to the Iraqi war under George W., which was a complete and total disaster. More than a disaster, when thousands of soldiers died for what? Tens of thousands of innocent Iraqis died for what? So we could catch Saddam Hussein in a hole. Because that's what it boils down to. There were no weapons of mass destruction. There were none. And that is why you have to make sure that the intelligence you get is accurate. And I want to know exactly what the intelligence was.
Brian, what specific event sparked the Iraqi war?
Well, I would make the argument that they went after Iraq and they fueled the fire of Americans after 9/11 when the Iraqi, it had nothing to do with Iraq. It had everything to do with Al-Qaeda and Afghanistan. And I believe if 9/11, they wanted a reason to go into Iraq, and they found that reason. They dropped the ball on Afghanistan. They dropped the ball on Osama bin Laden, and instead they went after Saddam Hussein.
And so you think it was a cover-up for what? Trying to get oil from Iraq?
I think there are.
You think it was an economical war?
I think there are financial reasons.
Based on the fact that there was a lot of oil in Iraq the United States was trying to take?
When you look at Dick Cheney and you look at his background, I absolutely think it was a financial decision.
You realize you're basically making up a giant conspiracy theory.
No, it's not a conspiracy theory.
You attack Alex Jones on a consistent basis.
Here's why it's not.
You attack conspiracy theorists on a consistent basis.
Because I have something called facts.
You yourself, it sounds to me like you are putting together a conspiracy theory.
We got to take a break, but a conspiracy theory is when you make something up with no evidence to back it up. Look at how much Halliburton hold on, let me finish. Let me finish my statement. Let me finish.
4 or 5 facts.
We got to break in 15 seconds. I'm just trying to make my point and say that Dick Cheney and Halliburton financially benefited from that war. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's a fact that Dick Cheney benefited from that war. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, Micheal Avenatti will be joining us. Take a quick break. Be back right after this You're listening to The Vegas Take.
Former National Security Advisor John Bolton says he would testify in a Senate impeachment trial of the president if he's subpoenaed to appear. Correspondent Caitlin Collins is at the White House.
This is substantial news coming from John Bolton, who, of course, has been at the center of this Ukraine drama. He was the National Security Advisor here in the White House who pushed repeatedly for the president to let go of that military aid to Ukraine.
The House is yet to forward the articles of impeachment to the Senate, and no trial date has yet been set. Two leading Senate Democrats are calling on the president to declassify the formal notification given to Congress regarding the U.S. drone strike that killed Iranian military commander Qasem Soleimani. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson says he doesn't agree with Trump's threat to target Iranian cultural sites and says the move would be an international crime. The Dallas Cowboys have their first new head coach in 10 years. Mike McCarthy has agreed. I'm Mike Moss.
It's time to check the roads in the KDON Traffic Center.
Report sponsored by Mattress Firm. The crash on I-15 northbound near Tropicana blocking the right lane. Also an accident 95 southbound at Lake Mead Boulevard. That's still creating a heavy traffic pattern. Expect slow and go from Craig Road on the 95 southbound. Meanwhile, the 95 on the east side, that is recovering nicely. No further delays there if you're northbound or southbound. On the surface streets, a crash. Injury sustained Charleston east of Decatur. It's the year-end sale at Mattress Firm through Tuesday. Save up to $600 when you get a king mattress for the price of a queen, plus a free adjustable base with your $499 purchase. I'm John Michaels from the KDON Traffic Center.
Did you ever look at the stains in your coffee cup and then realize that's exactly what happens to your teeth? Power Swabs is the 5-minute solution to get your teeth white without visiting the dentist. This is John Greenhut, the CEO of Power Swabs. And if your teeth are stained from coffee, tea, or smoking, all it takes is 5 minutes with Power Swabs. In 5 minutes, you'll see an average of 2 shades whiter teeth, and in 7 days, 6 shades. It's clinically proven to whiten natural teeth as well as caps and veneers. The secret is a tooth detergent that was developed by Dr. Martin Ginniger that lifts stains off of your teeth. Best of all, there's no messy strips or trays that you have to leave in your mouth for an hour. Just swab your teeth for 5 minutes and you're done. To try Power Swabs risk-free, call 1-800-679-0969. That's 1-800-679-0969. I guarantee your bright white smile will have your friends talking about how great you look. Try it risk-free today. 1-800-679-0969. That's 1-800-679-0969.
Sean Hannity, weekdays noon to 3 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM. KDON.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. So glad you could join us on a Monday. A lot to get to, obviously, today. A lot to go over. And certainly, what better person to do that? He joins us every week, and we love having him on. It is attorney Micheal Avenatti. Michael, thank you so much for joining us. How are you? Do we not have Michael on the line? Okay, it'd be nice if somebody could tell me that. They don't communicate with me today. I don't know. What am I going to do, JD? By the way, for the record, can I just say something in your defense now?
Absolutely, okay. Brian. What's up, man?
I watch porn on my cell phone all the time. Okay, I just want to say that I do. For the record, I'm just saying. I've watched them. Now, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do it on a work computer. I know you wouldn't either.
You're right. I would not do that.
My laptop is probably disgusting. I won't go any further than that. But I will say, for the record, I do the exact same thing, and I probably watch more than you. So I just wanted to make that clear for everybody. I'm not innocent in this conversation. All right, joining us on the line right now. Like I said, a lot to get to with him. There's so much going on in the news. It's crazy, and involving himself as well. So I want to certainly ask him about that. Attorney Micheal Avenatti is joining us on the line. Michael, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Excellent, guys. How are you?
Doing good.
Doing great, Michael.
So, Michael, I want to start with some stuff going on with you because you've tweeted about it, and I think it's fair to ask you about this. You tell me this latest Nike ruling. What can you tell us about this? Apparently, the judge made a decision in this case that does not benefit you. What can you tell us on the air about this decision moving forward?
Well, I'm going to be very careful with what I say because we're 2 weeks outside of trial, but we had filed a motion to dismiss various charges, and the judge denied that motion. That wasn't a big surprise, quite honestly. But the bottom line is I'm looking forward to the trial in this case, and once the evidence is presented, as opposed to mere allegations, I'm going to be fully exonerated. I'm very confident about that.
Fair enough. And hopefully, if and when that does happen, I'm sure there'll be more about the case that you will be able to talk about, but we appreciate that. All right, let's start with the big news that took place last week, Michael. Obviously, the killing of the Iranian general, as I like to call him, General Salami. He was killed last week. We all can agree, Michael, as I know you've made some comments on Twitter as well, that, obviously a horrible guy, a harbored terrorist. But with that being said, without talking to Congress, without getting the approval of Congress, without giving out all the information that Pompeo gave out, very little information. All we've learned, Michael, is that, well, he was planning an attack in America. And you made the reference to the Iraqi war, and so have I. Where were the weapons of mass destruction there? Our intelligence can be faulty. As a whole, what are your thoughts on what took place last week, and do you think it's dangerous for this country?
Well, last Monday when you guys had me on, I think I made reference to the fact that I thought we were on a powder keg, that we were just, waiting for a potential international conflict, and that by the time we found out that we had the wrong guy in the White House, or many people found out that we had the wrong guy in the White House, it was going to be too late. Little did I know that 3 or 4 days later, we were going to find ourselves exactly in such an incident. And now here we are. I mean, this is a very dangerous situation. This was not a smart decision by any stretch of the imagination. There's all kinds of people from around the world that we may disagree with, that we may see as threats, that we may have opinions about relating to their conduct, but we don't carry out assassination attempts on a regular basis against them because of the consequences that can result from such an act. And this is a very serious matter. And now you have the president of the United States threatening to destroy cultural sites in Iran. Many of those sites are over 2,000 years old. That is a war crime were he to do that. Imagine if a country engaged in an assassination attempt successfully on one of our top generals and then threatened to destroy the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah.
Or the Washington Monument, or
Exactly.
similar monuments here in the United States, which, are, quote, only, close quote, a couple hundred years old in some cases. I mean, we would be absolutely apoplectic. And this is a very, very dangerous situation. And now you have Iraq, who has called for the immediate withdrawal of all U.S. troops. I mean, we could find ourselves at odds with Syria, Iraq, and Iran, all of them in short order. And, to the people on the right who have turned a blind eye to the conduct of this president, they think it's funny the way that he behaves. They think his unpredictability is a good thing. God forbid our brothers, sisters, sons, and daughters start coming home in body bags. We're going to find out. We're going to find out if people are still laughing about the reality president.
Yeah, and you know what? That's where my main concern is, Michael. I know yours is as well. What we don't want is innocent men and women in uniform dying. And when you look at the Iraqi war, and I know you referenced that on social media, there are still men and women in uniform in Afghanistan, in Iraq, that are losing their lives. The main cause of that, the start of this Iraqi war based on faulty intelligence. So I 100% agree with you on that. We should be worried about the men and women, and we might be there for decades, and this is not a good thing. I can't believe I'm going to bring this up, but I think in a way, Tucker Carlson might agree with you, Michael. I want to play some audio, Tucker Carlson last week, in discussing this military action in Iran.
Hands of non-geniuses like Max Boot and John Bolton. But never mind. No one in Washington is in mood for big picture questions right now, questions the obvious ones like, is Iran really the greatest threat we face? And who's actually benefiting from this? And why are we continuing to ignore the decline of our own country in favor of jumping into another quagmire from which there is no obvious exit? By the way, if we're still in Afghanistan 19 years later, what makes us think there's a quick way out of Iran? And so on. Nobody is thinking like that right now.
All right, so this was your response on Twitter, which I thought was funny and appropriate at the same time. Michael, you said, quote, the next time you want to rail against those promoting war and conflict with Iran, why don't you start with Trump, the guy that ordered the assassination of a top general? Oh, that's right, you can't, because your lips are planted too firmly on his ass. So I want you to comment a little bit further on that, Michael.
Well, look, if Tucker wants to take a principled stand about what is going on with us being drawn into conflict with Iran, it starts at the top. He ought to be criticizing Donald Trump. My understanding is that Donald Trump was given a number of options of potential military strikes, and this idea, assassinating this general, was thrown on the sheet of paper as an option, an absolute extreme option. The report is that nobody really thought he would actually do it, that he would choose that option. I mean, I don't know where those people have been living for the last 3 years, knowing this president, right? And lo and behold, he chooses that option. Mm-hmm. And here we are. But guys, I mean, look, I want to be really clear about something. This isn't some goddamn game. These people that think that, that Trump's conduct's funny and aren't these tweets great? And isn't it funny how he attacks these people? And, oh, he's so unpredictable. Isn't it amazing? This is serious business. We're talking about life and death of potentially thousands and tens of thousands, if not millions of people, depending on how this thing spins out of control. Mm-hmm. This is not a game.
You're right.
And I'm going to tell you, we have been on borrowed time. I've said it on this show many, many times. I said it early last week. We have been on borrowed time. All right. It's been only a matter of time before something like this happened. And here we are.
So one of the common sentiments by the left wing has been pretty consistently that Donald Trump is doing this to distract from impeachment. And Mike Pompeo went out, and Trump actually went out himself and said that there was intel that this particular General Soleimani was actually going to attack the U.S. in a couple more ways. Do you buy any of that, or what do you think the real reason for this, for killing General Soleimani is?
Look, I don't believe that there was an imminent threat, and I think if they have intel that shows that there was an imminent threat, they should release it, and they should release it immediately. Pompeo backed off, I think, earlier today on CNN. He said that it doesn't matter whether the threat was imminent or not. No, it does matter if the threat was imminent or not. And I want you to follow me on this. In order to buy into this nonsense, here's what you have to believe. You have to believe that the Iranians at the very top decided that they were going to carry out specified attacks against America, and that they believed that America was not going to be able to find out, because otherwise they would be risking all-out war. Now, I don't believe for a minute that the Iranian government was planning imminent attacks against America with the belief that America would not find out after the attack as to who was responsible. I mean, that's an absurd proposition if you think about it.
Mm-hmm. I want to also play you an audio cut, Michael. A friend of our of the show, Joe Walsh, comes on our show from time to time. He also made an appearance on CNN over the weekend. So I want to play you this audio of Joe Walsh really saying that the president could have committed war crimes. Have a listen to this.
He's unfit. Look, every American, Frederica, needs to be really scared right now. And the reason they ought to be really scared right now is because of who is in the White House. We have a guy in the White House who doesn't read, he doesn't think, he doesn't understand, he doesn't listen, he doesn't take advice, he puts his own interest ahead of the nation's interest, and he doesn't tell the truth. I mean, this is a scary time because of the recklessness and the impulsiveness of Donald Trump. And here he is. I mean, Frederica, it was Saturday night last night. Last night, the President of the United States was tweeting about committing war crimes in Iran, bombing, blowing up historical and cultural sites. Yeah. I mean, that's the President of the United States on a Saturday night tweeting about committing war crimes.
Michael, your response to that?
I mean, I agree 100%. I mean, why are we conducting foreign policy and threats via Twitter? I mean, this is what we've become. And it's not funny, and it's not humorous, and it shouldn't be casual. I mean, it's very dangerous, beyond dangerous. It's very serious.
Here's something else that's serious, and I'm really sorry you've had to go through this personally. It's disgusting to me because no matter how much you dislike Donald Trump, and we both do, you would never make harassing phone calls to somebody that you dislike politically. And it is my understanding, Michael, that some Trump supporters have made some harassing phone calls to your parents. I mean, can you tell us a little bit about this? I'm so sorry that your family had to go through this.
Well, this has been going on, frankly, a while. It's been going on for the better part of 18 months in varying degrees. But, most recently I got a call very early in the morning the other day from my mother. She's in her 80s. Both my parents are in their 80s. They live in outside of St. Louis, Missouri. They live in the house that I grew up in. My mom was born in West Texas on a cotton farm in a small town called Seagraves, Texas. My father was born to Italian immigrants in Los Angeles. These are salt of the earth, hardworking people, honest people, my parents. And obviously, like I said, they're in their 80s. And the night before, one of these Trump supporters got my parents' home phone number and called up my parents and began threatening them and asked my mother if she knew where I was. And my mom was startled, and she said, no, I don't know where Michael is. And the guy said, well, you better find him, because if not, I'm coming for you.
Were police involved? Do you know? Can you give us any information? Like, did your parents call the police? Was there a report? And is there any way they can find this dummy who did this?
Yeah, we're in the process of trying to track this person down. I don't want to get into the details of what contacts have been made with law enforcement, but guys, this is disgusting. It's despicable. Who calls somebody's parents in their 80s and threatens them, late at night and scares the shit out of them? I mean, this is a cowardly act. It's disgusting. It's pathetic. I don't even know what other word to use to describe it. It has no place. But this is what our society's become. This is what social media and Twitter and the Trump administration and many of the people that support him. This is the kind of conduct they believe is acceptable.
Yeah, it's absolutely disgusting. And again, I'm sorry that your family's had to go through that. It's unbelievable. Moving on to Lindsey Graham. Lindsey, I'm sure you heard this. He wants the Senate rule change if Pelosi doesn't give it the impeachment articles. Now, you called it. You said Pelosi was going to not do this. And now you have Lindsey Graham saying he wants the Senate rule change. What do you make of that?
Well, they've obviously figured out that they don't want these impeachment charges hanging over the head of the president. They want to try to expedite the process and get the charges heard, quote unquote, I use that term very loosely, heard or adjudicated in the Senate because they want to clear him. They want this dog and pony show as quickly as possible so that Trump can then run around and do victory laps talking about how he was acquitted by the Senate after a nothing trial. That's what they're trying to do. I think the Democrats should hold firm and do everything they can in their power to avoid that happening.
Joe Biden was asked over the weekend. I know you're a supporter of Joe Biden. You've said time and time again, and there's a lot of people that agree with you on this one, that Joe Biden gives the Democrats the best chance to defeat Donald Trump. So Joe Biden was asked over the weekend if he thought that this attack on this general in Iran was a distraction from the impeachment stuff. And his response was yes. He said he didn't know for sure if the president did it for those reasons, but he said it's absolutely a distraction from this impeachment stuff. Would you agree with Joe Biden?
I think Joe Biden's right. Here's the other thing. I think that you now are seeing an effort by the Republicans to try to expedite these proceedings in the Senate by claiming that the attention of the country needs to be devoted to the situation developing in the Middle East and with Iran.
That makes sense.
I don't disagree with that, but
Yeah.
I don't disagree with the premise that needs to be the priority. But the second priority needs to be this impeachment. And as far as I'm concerned, the Democrats should not allow the situation in the Middle East and Iran to expedite the impeachment proceeding in the Senate. As far as I'm concerned, it's all the more reason to delay it.
There was arguments that Soleimani was kind of hated by Iranians and other countries in the Middle East. But you look at his funeral yesterday in Tehran, it looked like there was 250,000 or 300,000 people that showed up to attend it. And then there's rumors that people were actually forced to do so. How do you think, how angry do you think Iran is that Soleimani was killed, one? And two, what do you think their response is going to be, and how soon do you think it's going to be?
Well, I think they're very upset. And I think if we strike at one of their cultural sites, you can forget about it, right? I mean, you talk about a rallying point for a nation, whether they are supportive of Soleimani or not, whether they are supportive of the regime currently in place or not. You start destroying cultural sites, some of which have been around 2,000 years, that'll unite a lot of people in a big hurry, regardless of what their political leanings are. So if we actually carry out with one of those threats, I mean, I can't even begin to fathom what the response from Iran is going to be and how unified that country will become in short order.
Do you think that it will be the start of World War III?
I think it could be. I think it very well could be. And a lot of people say, well, Iran doesn't have the military power to go toe-to-toe with the United States. That may be true, but, you know, these things aren't handled in a vacuum, gentlemen. You don't know what other surrounding nations are going to do. You don't know what the Chinese are going to do. You don't know how Russia's going to, what their reaction's going to be. I mean, that's what you really worry about. You don't necessarily worry about, you know, only two nations engaging in a conflict. You worry about where all the other dominoes fall.
Michael, you alluded to this tweet at the beginning of this segment, but I want to read one of the tweets in speaking of Donald Trump, and I want you to maybe you can elaborate on it a little bit more, but I thought it was a very telling tweet a few hours ago. You said, quote, many in America thought it would be fun to elect Trump as president because he was raw and he was going to shake things up and he believed in low taxes, guns, and life. So they ignored his stupidity, his narcissism, and temperament, and now the world will pay a very steep price. I don't disagree with you on that. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, again, I just don't think that a lot of people thought this through when we elected this guy in 2016. And they didn't really think through the ramifications of having Donald Trump as the leader of the free world with the most powerful military at his disposal. You know, it takes somebody that it's great to be tough. And it's great to be aggressive. And I'm all for both of those things. Anybody that's followed me, you can say a lot of things, but one thing you can't say is that I'm not a fighter. So I get it. But you've got to have a measured response in times like these to things. You can't just run off half-cocked and not think of all of the potential consequences when you carry out something of this nature. I mean, this is a significant act, and I just think that too many people in America were too enamored with this reality star and the idea of shaking things up and putting somebody in there with no experience, putting somebody in there that has an ego, an unmatched ego. And here we are. And now potentially our brothers and our sisters and our sons and our daughters, as well as many others around the world, could unfortunately pay a very steep price. And I hope that doesn't happen. But again, I don't know how you're going to put the toothpaste back in the tube in light of what just happened.
So Trump has absolutely zero experience in war, in the military, really in foreign relations. Do you think that he is going to take the advice of his trusted members of his cabinet who have military experience over the next, we'll say, 6 to 12 months?
Well, I hope so, but all indications are that Trump routinely thinks that he's the smartest guy in the room and disregards people with decades of experience. I mean, we just saw that recently in connection with Trump's support of Officer Gallagher and others in connection with the Navy SEAL incident and the crimes that were committed in connection with that. You've seen that in other contexts over the last 3 years.
Well, Michael, what about
the guy who?
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Michael, but a perfect example is what about the withholding of Ukrainian aid? Because all the information that we've heard from the New York Times and sources are that people like Bolton were trying to tell him not to withhold the aid in Ukraine. He didn't take any of their advice, did he?
Well, no, he didn't. That's another example. And there's, hundreds of examples. But the problem is that this guy is not the smartest guy in the room, but he is so convinced that he is the smartest guy in the room, including on things that he has absolutely no knowledge about. And that creates a very, very, and I keep using this word, but it is the only, or it is the best word to describe this situation. This is dangerous, beyond dangerous.
No, I totally agree.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is not a reality show. Let's call this what it is. This is not a reality show. This is not about ratings. This is not even about votes, or at least it shouldn't be about votes. And again, I go back to the war in Iraq, and I know, Michael, you've referenced this before. We lost thousands of our own soldiers in Iraq. We've lost tens of thousands of innocent Iraqi civilians. Why? because the Bush administration was told that there were weapons of mass destruction. Those weapons were never found. We saw Osama bin Laden captured in a hole in the ground with a pellet gun and a candy bar, and we were told that was the reason why we went into Iraq. We still have troops in Iraq. We still have troops in Afghanistan, and our brave men and women are still dying because of that war, but yet Republicans, many of them, not all of them, but many of them on the right, just want to go with the CIA. You know, let's go with this intelligence, even though we haven't heard specifics. Isn't it interesting, Michael, that when Donald Trump gets on a stage with Vladimir Putin and he says, well, Putin says he didn't interfere in the election, so I'm going to believe him over our own CIA. Or when it comes to the death of Otto Warmbier, right, he believes Kim Jong-un over our own CIA, over our own intelligence. But when it comes to this specific issue, when it suits him, then he wants to believe our own intelligence. What do you make of that?
Well, I think you put your finger right on it. I mean, the issue is that when he wants to point to the intelligence community as providing accurate information, he does it when it suits his interests, when it suits to justify to others his actions. But otherwise, I mean, he's been highly critical of the intelligence community for years in this country, and his claim that it's unreliable, et cetera. Look, I don't believe that there's any evidence, or perhaps scant evidence, that this threat was imminent. I just don't believe it. I think it's a bunch of BS. I think it's nonsense. I think it makes the allegations of weapons of mass destruction look well substantiated in comparison, frankly. I just don't believe it. And I think Pompeo this morning, when he backtracked as it related to it doesn't matter if the threat was imminent or not, I think that probably tells you everything that you need to know. This was not well thought out. It wasn't necessary. It was not, no one really thought about the consequences, the severe consequences that could result. And here we are. And this is why you don't put a narcissist who's not that smart, a reality TV star, with a big ego in the White House. This is exactly why you don't do it.
And that's a very, very good point. He does, in some situations, he'll use the intelligence as a scapegoat. In another situation, he'll use it as an asset based on what he wants to accomplish. And I'll be completely honest. I voted for Donald Trump, but I would say this particular situation, handling a situation like this, if I looked at pros and cons or strengths and weaknesses, I would say this was probably the biggest weakness for Donald Trump when I voted for Donald Trump. And I would imagine a lot of Republicans share that same sentiment.
Yeah, well, that's strong words, and maybe there are other Republicans like yourself that would say the same.
Well, he has no experience.
Yeah, well, clearly we all know that.
Period.
Michael, it is always a pleasure to speak with you. We wish you luck, obviously, with your Nike case, and I'm sorry that your family had to go through what they went through with that phone call. That's just awful. I hope that doesn't happen to you or your family again. Always appreciate it, Michael, when you take some time to join us every week. Have a great week, and we will catch up with you next week, my friend. Thank you so much.
Thanks, gentlemen.
All right.
Thanks a lot, Mike.
There you go. That's attorney Michael Avenatti joining us. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take some phone calls now. We got to take a quick break. But when we come back, we will take your phone calls on this. As far as what we've been talking about with Michael Avenatti, and by the way, the number to call is 702-257-5396. The questions that I will ask you is, do you think Donald Trump's actions last week put America and put troops in harm's way? Was it not worth it? What do you think about that? What do you think of Lindsey Graham's comments? What do you think about everything that has taken place here, including, I'll even go here, in Soleimani's death, they're putting an $80 million, mark on Donald Trump's head. At least somebody at that funeral did. And then you have a comedian in George Lopez who's saying, hey, I'll do it for half. I'm taking the side of the president on this one. And all Americans, you should never joke around about the president's, assassination or any of that stuff. But I want to get your thoughts on this. So 257-5396. Again, that number, now's the time to call in, 702-257-5396. We're going to take a quick break. We'll take your calls on the other side. This is The Vegas Take.
Hey, Greg, I'm so sorry to hear about your brother's heart attack.
Thanks. He's okay now, but it really got me thinking about my family. Could my wife still pay our mortgage if I had a heart problem? Or could my kids still go to college?
Man, that is really scary. You should call my life insurance agent at Health IQ. When I got life insurance for my family last year, they saved me 41% versus any other company I looked at.
41%? That's huge.
Yep. Health IQ starts by shopping everyone with the top 30 life insurance carriers to make sure they can get the lowest retail rate. Then they apply their exclusive healthy lifestyle savings, which can save you up to 41%. I literally got $1 million in coverage for my family for just $36 a month.
Just $36 a month?
Yep. You should check it out at healthiq.com/easy.
To save that much money, I'm going to call them right now. What's that link again? healthiq.com/easy?
Yep. healthiq.com/easy.
Your home for Sean Hannity. KDWN Las Vegas, KKLZ HD2 Las Vegas, a Beasley Media Group station.
Bolton surprise, de-escalate tensions. I'm Mike Moss. A significant development in the impeachment proceedings against President Trump over Ukraine aid. Correspondent Kylie Atwood reports former Trump National Security Advisor John Bolton says if issued a subpoena, he would testify before a Senate trial.
The former national security advisor to President Trump, who was in the meetings, who was pushing back on the fact that President Trump and the White House were withholding the Ukraine aid. He knows things about that decision to withhold that aid. He is now saying that he is willing to testify if he is subpoenaed by the Senate.
Correspondent Manu Raju reports Bolton's statement puts new pressure on the Senate.
It's going to add a lot of pressure to Republicans, especially ones who said we should just dismiss this case after the opening arguments. Democrats, of course, have demanded him to testify. Now, Bolton, his attorney himself, has said in recent weeks that he had information that has not yet come out during the impeachment inquiry. So what is that information?
A number of nations are calling for a de-escalation of tensions between Iran and the U.S. Correspondent Sam Kiley is in the United Arab Emirates and says the U.S. killing of Iran's top military official has the region on edge.
This causing extreme anxiety right across this region with the Prince Khalid bin Salman, the Deputy Defense Minister, former ambassador to Washington, meeting with Mike Pompeo in Washington today with a message saying, please de-escalate. That's echoed here in the Emirates and also United Kingdom, France and Germany also calling for a de-escalation.
Actress Rose McGowan is among more than 80 women accusing movie producer Harvey Weinstein of sexual crimes and is among those attending the opening of a sex crimes trial in New York today.
You thought you could terrorize me and others into silence. You were wrong. We rose from your ashes.
The Dow is down
we rise
55.
Together.
It's time to check the roads in the KDON Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's, slowing for the crash I-15 northbound near Tropicana vehicles off-right. Also a crash on Charleston east of Decatur. This is with injuries sustained. Police and fire on scene for another accident with injuries on Durango just north of the 95. Meanwhile, no delays to report if you're on the Southern Beltway east side, west side. Looking good, a nice recovery there. And no delays on the 95 in the West Valley. Pros do it right by shopping at Lowe's to save on the supplies they need most from the brands they trust to get the job done. Do it right for less. Start with Lowe's. I'm John Michaels from the KDON Traffic Center.
This holiday season, get the rest you deserve with Helix Sleep. Helix makes personalized mattresses to fit your unique body type and sleep preferences and give you the best sleep of your life. Go to helixsleep.com and get up to $200 off during their holiday sale.
Okay, grab a pen and a paper because we're going to lay it on you straight up. Everybody wants to know how much a loan from Dollar Loan Center really costs, and it's way less than most people think. Vegas, Reno, Carson City, Pahrump, Laughlin, Fernley. The DLC is everywhere. So check this out. Let's start with a loan of $500 and we'll do the math from there. A $500 loan at Dollar Loan Center costs $2.75 a day in interest. Again, a $500 loan will cost you $2.75 per day in interest. If you need it for a week, $19.25. That's it. No fees to apply, no penalty to pay early, nothing else. Critics want you to think you have to pay back 2, 3, 4 times what you borrow, and it's simply not true. Please do your own research.
Licensed by the Nevada Financial Institutions Division. Annual percentage rate of 199.99%. For additional cost information, call 866-550-4352. Certain limitations may apply. Loans are subject to approval.
Tina Trenner is back, and she's on 720 AM, 1015 FM, KDWN every Sunday at 12 p.m. She's sick of the nonsense and has something to say every Sunday at 12 p.m.
V is for victory, except on Saturdays when V is for veterans.
That's Veterans Talk, The Forgotten Promise. Join us every Saturday from noon to 1.
Veterans Talk every Saturday at noon on 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDWN.
This is Lorraine Hunt Bono, inviting you to tune in for Breaking Bread with Bono. Join my husband, Dennis Bono, as celebrities share with him their intimate and humorous stories. Saturdays, 5 to 6 p.m., right here on KDARN.
I'm Jim Snyder.
And I'm Marie Mortera. We want to thank you for making News 3 your #1 choice for news.
Every weeknight at 11, you can count on us to have the big story of the day.
Plus breaking news that matters to you.
Jim Snyder and Marie Mortera. News 3 live at 11.
The new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN. The opinions of the hosts on KDWN are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of this station, its management, or Beasley Media Group. Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take. Sharp and Shapiro rolling out the red carpet for hour number 2 on a Monday. Glad you could join us. We just had Micheal Avenatti on the show, of course. The possible repercussions, well, there will be some, at least according to Iran and their government. But with this attack, and as I like to call him, General Salami, do you think it was a distraction? Do you think it was a diversion from impeachment? Are you okay with the president's actions? Do you believe the CIA? Do you believe our intelligence? And do you believe Mike Pompeo should be giving out more details on this alleged attack that this guy was supposedly planning on innocent Americans, whether that's in this country or that's in Iran? Give us a call, 702-257-5396. Again, that number to call is 257-5396. We're going to start off, and as I promised, take all your phone calls with Jim. Jim, thanks for calling in to the Vegas Take. What's on your mind?
Hey, what's up, Jim?
Hi, how you doing?
Good, good.
Good. No, it wasn't to cause a distraction from the impeachment. That's not the case. I think he followed the advice of all of the chief of staffs of the military and CIA and everything else that we have in place, our drones, our satellites, to see what the next option was and to see what was actually going to happen in the future with the abilities from our people that are undercover over there. I think that it was a long time overdue. We could have saved a lot more lives if this was done 8-9 years ago. Unfortunately, it wasn't, so we don't worry about past tense. We worry about saving lives today and helping people get free of the Iranian.
I understand, Jim. Listen, Jim, make no mistake about it, Jim. I hope you're right, but here's why I'm skeptical, and then you can respond to that. 2 words, Iraq war. Do you remember we were told that there were weapons of mass destruction? There were never weapons of mass destruction. We lost tens of thousands of innocent Iraqis, thousands of innocent American soldiers. So why do you think it's not okay, or maybe you didn't say that, but why do you think it's not fair to be skeptical with our intelligence?
Well, I think the intelligence back in the time when Saddam was alive was maybe a little bit underboard. I can't say for sure they were. I haven't seen any real facts of the mass destruction, but I know Saddam killed a lot of people.
But the reason why we went to war, but the specific reason, according to George W. Bush and his administration, why we went to war is he wanted to get his WMDs. Listen, Yasser Arafat killed a lot of people. We never went after Yasser Arafat. There's many of evil, murderous dictators that have killed a lot of innocent people. I would point to Vladimir Putin. Why is it that Donald Trump has never said anything negative about Vladimir Putin and takes Vladimir Putin's word over our own intelligence? If that's the case, why?
I'm not going to get into that because I'm not in the know, and neither is the news media in the know.
Whoa.
We have to look at the facts.
I am looking at the facts.
You're asking me to look at a fact, and I can't see a fact.
Okay, Jim, just hear me out. Hear me out for 20 seconds here. Our own intelligence told us that Russia interfered in the election. That's not an opinion. That's a fact, according to many organizations, including the CIA. Vladimir Putin claims they had no role and they did not interfere. Donald Trump on a world stage said he believed Vladimir Putin. That's a fact. What do you make of that?
Let me ask you this. Didn't they say Ukraine was interfered with our election?
Absolutely not. Not according to our own intelligence. They said that is a farce. That is a right-wing talking point. That's a farce. Our own intelligence says.
Wasn't Ukrainian under control of a group of people that were not very good people, including their past president?
I agree with you. There are a lot of not good people in a lot of countries, and Ukraine is no exception to that. And I appreciate the phone call, Jim, but I also notice that you did not entertain my point and my question in regards to specifically Vladimir Putin and Russia. But I appreciate your phone call. And listen, I hope you're right. I hope you're right. I hope the president made the right decision. I am extremely skeptical. 257-5396 is the number to call.
Thanks for the call, Jim.
Let's go to Robert. Robert, you're next on the Vegas Take. Go ahead.
What's up, Robert?
First of all, I appreciate your time, and I will say this. I applaud the actions of President Trump. I believe that you have to, at some point, address the element in the Middle East with force, because that's the only thing to understand. They don't understand diplomacy. And I will say this as a little sidebar, and again, I appreciate your time. Capitalism is a new phenomenon to the world. The United States has been around for about 200 years or so, whatever it might be. And the rest of the world is kind of evolved from a feudalistic third world type thing, including Europe with the queen and the monarchs, et cetera, and of course the Middle East. So the ideal of capitalism is something that's relatively new to the rest of the world, and it's not accepted in the Middle East. And there is the resentment to the West, and you hear it all over the place when you turn on the television. Now, the assassination, if you will, of the general in question was necessary to show force, to show that the United States is not going to sit back and allow people to attack us around the world.
So let me ask you a question. Let me just ask you a question. What evidence have you heard thus far that would show you that he was going after, he had a plan in place to attack us?
Well, first of all, neither one of us, and I appreciate it with respect, are privy to that kind of intelligence. So I will say this, that you have to defer to higher authority, and I do trust the government.
We did in the Iraq War. We did in the Iraq War.
I would actually refer to his track record, the fact that he was involved with the attack on the U.S. Embassy, the fact that he was meeting with those particular attackers in Iraq, the fact that he had been, it's been said that he's responsible for roughly 600 United States soldiers' deaths. I mean,
Saddam Hussein was responsible.
He's been indirectly involved in basically everything.
Okay, I understand.
That has gone relatively negative against the United States in the Middle East. And so I would refer to that instead of actual, concrete intel at this point.
I understand what you're saying, and I appreciate the call, Robert. But with that being said, I go back to what you just said. Saddam Hussein was an evil, murderous dictator that probably killed hundreds of thousands of his own people. But we went to war based on faulty intelligence, on weapons of mass destruction. Not because Saddam Hussein was a part of 9/11, not because Saddam Hussein was the mastermind behind going after the United States and starting a war. We went after him on faulty intelligence.
And I think one of the reasons we went to war was because patriotism was so high. The country came together so strongly.
And George W. Bush took advantage of that.
He definitely was opportunistic, and he did take advantage of that. I totally agree.
702-257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to Andrew. Andrew, you are next on the Vegas Take. What do you make of all this?
What's up, Andrew?
Okay, good morning and Happy New Year. Yeah, this is the guy with the 18,000 names. So anyway, this is definitely, in my opinion, a wag the dog situation. And if you got a chance to go back and look at this number 45 statements in 2012, when President Obama was in his year of trying to be reelected, he said that Obama was going to do exactly what he did Friday. He said he's going to start a war with Iran so that he can get reelected.
And we played that. And by the way, we played that audio last week, and you're absolutely right.
Conversation last week.
He is the hypocrite in chief. I could name it.
Yeah, but there's differences here. Trump isn't desperate for numbers. His polling isn't down by any stretch. His polling is actually up, especially amongst Republicans. He's near 95% with Republicans. So there's differences there.
Iowa, yeah.
No, not in Iowa.
He's up. Iowa,
you mean in Alabama?
Yeah, Alabama.
Okay.
Yeah,
Iowa's actually a relatively blue state.
Okay. Well, what I'm trying to say, JD, is that there's a lot of people with their heads stuck in the sand, and there's a lot of people like you who just want this guy just to be such a true patriot, and he's not.
He's the opposite of a patriot. Well, make no mistake about that.
Oh, I made a statement earlier. I'll tell you this. I did not vote for Donald Trump because of situations like this. He has no experience here, and I hope that he handles it well. But but based on what I've seen, there's no guarantee that he will.
He wants to go after historical landmarks, and he's tweeting this morning on the Crapper that he wants to go after historical landmarks.
Going after historical landmarks in a country with 82 million people is probably not a great idea.
It's idiotic and irresponsible.
Hey, thank you. I just want to say that he's wag the tail.
Yeah, no, I agree. Listen, Andrew, I agree, Andrew, and I appreciate your phone call.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks for the call.
702. So let me ask you guys this question then. Is this a wagging the dog situation? Andrew brought that up. Do you agree or disagree with that caller? 702-257-5396. Let's go to Elizabeth. Elizabeth, you are next on the Vegas Take. What do you make of this?
What's up, Elizabeth?
Good morning, gentlemen. Happy New Year to all of you.
Thank you.
What I was interested in the fact that I heard this morning that Pence and Pompeo were the two gentlemen in the room who encouraged the president to make the decision to go ahead and assassinate the general. And I have a bad feeling about Pompeo. I think he would like to go ahead and be chosen to run as the vice president, and Pence would of course, not be able to run because Trump would pick him. And I don't trust him at all. And I don't know if you've noticed that when he's on television and even with the Ukrainian situation, when he is asked a question and he's not going to be truthful, he kind of laughs. That little laugh, and it's like
it's a nervous laugh. I see Tucker.
Exactly.
I see Tucker Carlson do it all the time.
Right. And why haven't we heard from the female in the room, Gina Haspel?
Good question.
CIA director.
Good
about
question.
anything.
Yeah, good question. And you know what? Not to make it light of this, but I wonder if Mike Pence wanted to know if General Salami was a homosexual. I'm sorry, that's a horrible joke. But no,
see, Pence wants to see Armageddon happen
probably
like yesterday because of the right-wing Christian evangelicals would love to see that happen.
Well, Elizabeth, I'm sure that your thoughts and what your concern is, what many of ours are, we don't want our innocent men and women in uniform put in harm's way for the wrong reasons, and this might be the wrong reason. I'm sure you would agree with that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I wanted those were my thoughts.
Thank you.
I wanted to put them out there.
Thank you,
and
Elizabeth.
See what you all
thanks a lot, Elizabeth.
But what do you think about Pompeo? Do you think he'd like to be the number 2 man?
Good question, Elizabeth. And I'm going to try to. And by the way, thank you for the phone call, Elizabeth. You're always welcome.
I actually believe that anyone in politics is always looking to move up. So of course he wants to be the vice president.
I believe Pompeo.
Because you have to have a big ego to be a politician, especially at that level.
Most of them, I agree with you. Here's my opinion on Pompeo, Elizabeth, and we do appreciate your phone call. Very similar to Lindsey Graham. I think he sold himself to the devil. I think he cares more about his own career than he does certainly our men and women in uniform. It's sad that I'm going to say that, but that's my opinion of Pompeo. When you see the president of the United States takes the side of Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin, and you don't say anything about it, and you defend the president, you are selling your soul just like Lindsey Graham, okay? Same situation. That is my opinion of Pompeo. I think he is a complete disgrace, and I can't be more clear on that. Let's go back to your phone calls, 257-5396. I want to go to Brent. Brent, you are next on the Vegas Take. Thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
What's up, Brent?
Hey, how's it going? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
All right, perfect. Well, I want to give you a couple of perspectives. I'm a 23-year Army vet.
Thank you for your service, sir. We appreciate your service.
It's our pleasure. Likewise. I agree with you on some points. I never agreed with the Iraq War.
Mm-hmm.
Never did.
Mm-hmm.
Not for a second. And that was unpopular in 2000.
Were you in the Iraq War, sir?
I was in Iraq once and Afghanistan twice.
Oh my goodness. Well, I can't imagine how difficult that must be. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No big deal. I think that President Trump in this situation was playing cleanup, and I think it's really sad that he has to play cleanup all the time. It's extremely sad. He has to clean up a lot of situations. Obama had Soleimani in his sights.
Mm-hmm.
For the entire time. I mean, Soleimani has been in so many people's sights. And when people like Avenatti, who I believe has no right to weigh in on my brothers and sisters, he kept using the term brothers and sisters over and over and over, when 700 plus of my brothers and sisters were murdered by proxy involvement,
mm-hmm.
EFP technology. You know what an EFP is, right?
Yes. Can I pull back a little bit on what you said, and let me be very clear. And listen, I don't want to speak for Michael. I think Michael certainly cares about your brothers and sisters. And I think, listen, I didn't serve. I don't think Michael Avenatti served, but I think if you're a decent human being, you should have compassion for people like you and the people out there on the front lines. I don't think you should take offense to that. You're entitled to your opinion, and you're right. This guy was responsible for hundreds of innocent Americans dying, and I've said that on this show over and over again. This general, he was a terrorist bastard, and I hope he suffered a painful death. I don't feel for him or his family. But with that being said, Brent, I think the point that Michael Avenatti is trying to make is this. Is this the right decision for America long term? Isn't it possible, and I'm just saying possible, and I hope I'm wrong, isn't it possible that he attacked this man and now more of your brothers and sisters could lose their lives because of possibly faulty intelligence or maybe the president doing this for the wrong reasons? I think that's my opinion. I think that's what Avenatti was trying to say. So what would you say to that?
Tracking. And I'm with you 100% on the intelligence. I trust it as far as I can throw it. I mean, being through all of it.
Right.
But I believe that his demise will save a lot of not only of our brothers and sisters, but the brothers and sisters that are
I hope you're right.
chaos in that region.
I hope you're right, Brent. I really do.
And I don't believe that Pompeo owes anybody anything. I don't think we can trust, especially the Congress, to hold on to intelligence. And I believe that that's why the president did not notify the Congress, because, I mean, we have people in Congress who would have notified Soleimani immediately.
Yeah.
And I think that back to your further question, which I agree with 100%, is that this initial strike, this unilateral strike on this guy inside Iraq, which the president had every right to do because of the location, number one, and his involvement, number two, and his ties, number three. We always look back in American history as, what if we did? We should have done this. We should have done that. With Japan, we should have done this. We're always reactive and never proactive. So I love the proactivity that's happened here. We're always reactive. I mean, when bin Laden was in custody under Bill Clinton prior to the 9/11 attacks, we released him. And then we look back, well, we should have done this. We should have done that. And then 3,000 Americans.
Oh, yeah. Hindsight's always 20/20 in a situation like that. Brent, did you see on Twitter or any social media platform how big of a crowd there was for the funeral of Soleimani in Iran? And do you think that is legitimate, like that he has that much support back there?
No, there's a lot of threats over there. There's a lot of threats. Iran is a nation that still will throw you off a building for being gay. It's still a nation that will stone you to death if you are accused of adultery. There's a lot of threats. All that somebody needs is a letter on the door. You will show up or else. Yeah. Now, I did see Iranians worldwide, especially on Twitter and Facebook, even in Canada, that were rejoicing. I mean, they know oppression. The American left, entitled left, speaks about oppression, but these Iranians know oppression, and they were dancing in the streets of Canada. They were dancing in the streets of America, dancing in the streets of
I understand that, but there are also hundreds of thousands of people that were dancing death to America. So, we can't make it like everybody is rejoicing in the death of Mr. General Salami. There are plenty of people in that country that want death to America. I'm sure you would agree with that.
Exactly. And Mr. Salami, as you say.
Yeah, well, that's what I like to call him. That's what his body looks like now. So yeah.
You just can't say his name.
Yeah, he was
You just can't say that. That's the only issue.
America campaign.
No, I don't want to give this guy any respect. That's all. That's all I'm saying. Listen, Brent,
I'm with you.
Brent, I thank you for your service to this great nation. We appreciate your phone call and your perspective. Thank you so much. Okay.
I appreciate your show.
Yes.
You guys have a great week.
Thank you, Brent.
Thanks a lot, Brent.
Always good to hear from our veterans, whether we agree or disagree. And that is, I will always say that, and they always have a voice here. 702-257-5396. Let's go to Mason. Mason, you are next on the Vegas Take. What do you make of all this?
What's up, Mason?
Hello.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Can you hear me well?
I get loud and clear, friend. Go ahead.
Well, this is the first time on this radio talk show. I just heard that you guys are talking about Iran, and I'm like an Iranian living here in Vegas for 6 years. So I'm following the news like the way much better than you guys, because I know what's going on in there in Iran. I have friends and family back there that I just can ask questions about this whole thing. So I'm happy that you actually got the first part of this, that this guy was a big terrorist, and we're all happy because he's dead now. But there's a couple of things I just heard from like Mike Pompeo or President Trump, and you actually mentioned it in like a couple of comments before that it's just like in historical places that if he targets the historical place, people, will not be happy. So I'm definitely sure, because I did actually a little bit of research over this. So there's a couple of terrorists in Iran. There's a couple of places in Iran that we don't have a sample here in U.S. So when he said historical, because seriously, there was no other name for it.
Okay, I'm not sure why you're laughing during that phone call, and that leads me to believe that was not a serious phone call. I'm going to go with my better judgment on that one.
I think it was a serious phone call. He just didn't really know how to tell
Well,
a joke
I
and
heard
state a fact simultaneously, so he just started laughing.
Well, make no mistake about that. There's no chuckling when it comes to innocent people dying and our soldiers.
He may have just watched the Joker yesterday.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go with my better judgment on that one. 702-257-5396
thanks for the call.
Is the number to call. Why don't we go to Brady? Brady, you're next on the Vegas Take. What's going on?
What's up, Brady?
Yeah, good morning, gentlemen. Under Trump now, we've got rid of ISIS, Soleimani, and al-Baghdadi. And I just love it that the left goes nuts, that we keep killing these terrorists, which are maiming our soldiers. I don't care if he killed one soldier. The guy was on my hit list, and I'm glad Trump took him out, because under Obama, you remember how that JV team ISIS strived and thrived, and he did nothing when.
Okay, let me ask you a question. So let me ask you a question, Brady. Can you name me one prominent Democrat that is either running for president or in Congress that has felt sorrow for this man that Trump killed, like you are stating incorrectly? Can you name me one Democrat that has said they feel sorry for Soleimani? Please, right now. One Democrat.
Let me think.
Yeah, let you see. Exactly.
Omar, her name is.
What exactly? Okay, did she say she was? Give me a statement. Okay, you can name all the names you want, but give me a specific statement that a Democrat said in showing. Now, they can say they disagree with the killing of this guy, but that is a fine line between saying that and saying you feel sorry for this terrorist. So again, if you're going to make an irresponsible, incorrect statement like that, be factual. Give me an actual statement that a Democrat made in feeling sorry for this guy and his family, please, because that's what you're referencing. That's what you're saying.
I can't remember who was the one who said that.
You can't remember, but yet you're okay stating something that no. This is what you always do.
People are getting targeted under our military. Oh, that was what was his name? Kaepernick.
What are you? What the hell are you? What the hell does? What the hell does Kaepernick have to do with what I just asked you? See, this is my problem with idiots like you. No, you call into this show. No, you say something irresponsible, just like the wackos on the right. Hold on.
He actually did make a statement.
Okay,
Kaepernick did.
We're not
yesterday.
talking about Kaepernick. I just said a prominent Democrat. Is Colin Kaepernick a prominent Democrat running for president? You moron. Huh?
I think he's running.
So you make an irresponsible statement and then you bring up Colin Kaepernick. Do you realize how dumb you sound calling into this show every day? You are an idiot, Brady.
Kaepernick and Shapiro.
Yeah, really funny. Now make a joke about innocent people dying.
Brady, honest question here. You're probably the most chill out, Brian. You're probably the most ardent Trump supporter that calls into our show.
He's the most ardent moron that calls into the show.
Unnecessary.
Completely necessary.
Did you think?
Go ahead, JD. I'm listening.
Okay. Did you vote for Donald Trump because you thought he would handle situations like this well?
Yes, I voted for him because I voted anything but Hillary Clinton at the time.
And that's why Brady has an IQ of about 20. Have a nice day, Brady. We appreciate your call, you dummy.
Hey, good call, Brady.
257-5396 is the number to call. How much time do we have left here?
2 minutes.
Good grief. We have 1 minute. All right. Well, here's what we're going to do, guys. We have a lot of people waiting on hold. I want to get to all of your calls. Aaron, Carl, Brian, Marge, John, Mark. We're going to get to all your calls when we come back. I promise you that. I don't want to take another call now because I don't want to rush and then give somebody 20 seconds. I promise I'll get to all your calls on the other side. See, that's what I'm talking about, folks. So a moron calls into a show and says, all the Democrats are feeling sorry for this guy, and then he couldn't give me one specific statement. And then he brings up Colin Kaepernick. Is Colin Kaepernick a prominent Democrat? The guy's never even voted before. Is Colin Kaepernick a guy running for president? No. But a guy like Brady, who is a right-wing nut, calls into this show and makes a statement that is not factually accurate. There is a fine line, and let me be clear on this before we go to break. There is a fine line between disagreeing with the president and being skeptical about our intelligence in taking this guy out and feeling sorry for this guy and his family. Do we understand the distinction? Because if you don't understand that distinction, you're as dumb as Brady. I really don't know what else to say. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll take your calls. We have 2 phone lines open, 702-257-5396. Again, that number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation, 257-5396. We'll take a quick break, get to all your calls on the other side. You're listening to The Vegas Take.
Hi, I'm Dave Mizrahi, owner of Best Mattress, where we absolutely have to make room for the new models. It's so jammed in the warehouse, I haven't seen one of my managers in 2 years. I know he's in there somewhere. Make some noise, will you, George? Man, I hope he's okay. Anyway, save hundreds of dollars on the brands you know and trust. Serta, Sealy, Beautyrest, Stearns & Foster, and Tempur-Pedic. And get a free adjustable base with any queen mattress of $5.99 or more. Best Mattress, home of the 120-day Sleep Easy Guarantee.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit beefy, or even with type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Affordable term life insurance is out there. Call Term Provider and speak with Big Lou at 800-481-1458. 800-481-1458 or visit biglou.com. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too.
Hey, this is Matt Franco, inviting you to bring home the magic that comes with saving a life. Every day at the Animal Foundation, you'll find hundreds of loyal, loving shelter pets looking for their permanent homes. Visit the Animal Foundation's new adoption center today or find your pet online at animalfoundation.com.
Should the House send the articles of impeachment to the Senate, there may be new pressure to call witnesses in a Senate impeachment trial of the president. White House correspondent Caitlin Collins reports former National Security Advisor John Bolton now says he would testify at that trial if subpoenaed.
In the months since he's been saying they locked him out of his Twitter account when he left his job as National Security Advisor, the relationship has not been good between the White House and Bolton. And the assumption among the officials who worked for him at the National Security Council thought that if he did speak, it would not be good for the administration.
Senate Democrats Bob Menendez and Chuck Schumer are calling on President Trump to immediately declassify the administration's reasoning for the deadly strike on an Iranian official. They say they've not been given legitimate justification for keeping that information from the public to see. On Wall Street, stocks are mixed so far. The Dow is down about 20. I'm Mike Moss.
It's time to check the roads in the KDON Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's, slowing for the crash I-15 northbound near Tropicana vehicles off-right. Also a crash on Charleston east of Decatur. This is with injury sustained. Police and fire on scene for another accident with injuries on Durango just north of the 95. Meanwhile, no delays to report if you're on the Southern Beltway east side, west side. Looking good, a nice recovery there. And no delays on the 95 in the West Valley. Pros do it right by shopping at Lowe's to save on the supplies they need most from the brands they trust to get the job done. Do it right for less. Start with Lowe's. I'm John Michaels from the KDON Traffic Center.
This is John Greenhut. And if your teeth are stained from coffee, tea, or smoking, Power Swabs is the answer. In 5 minutes, you'll see 2 shades whiter teeth, and in 7 days, 6 shades. Even better, there's no messy strips or trays that you'll have to leave in your mouth for an hour. Just swab your teeth for 5 minutes, and you're done. To try Power Swabs, call 1-800-679-0969. Your bright white smile will have your friends talking about how great you look. Try it risk-free. 1-800-679-0969. That's 1-800-679-0969.
Las Vegas Divas Day Out is back. The largest women's expo returns January 25th at the Galleria at Sunset. Dozens of vendors with samples and sales of hundreds of all things favorite to women. Want to be a vendor? Go to divasdayout.com for more information. Vendor space is limited.
Join Coach Harvey Hyde and Chuck Hayes Saturday evenings from 9 to 10 p.m. for Trojan Football Report, presented by South Point Hotel and Casino, here on 101.5 FM and 720 AM KDWN, where Las Vegas comes to talk.
When you're diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer, a lot of questions run through your mind. What am I going to do? What are my options? What did I do wrong? We've had those thoughts too. But some questions can help you move forward.
Visit findyourmbcvoice.com for an interactive guide to help you learn the next steps to take after an MBC diagnosis.
And how to ask the questions that lead to an open and informed conversation with your doctor.
Start finding your voice today at findyourmbcvoice.com.
Sean Hannity, weekdays noon to 3 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM. KDON.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. So glad you could join us. Always nice to hear a little STP waking you up in the morning. Obviously, we're talking about the situation in Iran right now. A lot of people screaming out, "Death to America." One of the eulogists, I guess, at Salami's funeral I'm just going to call him Salami. I don't care. Soleimani, I'm calling him Salami. Said that there should be an $80 million price on Donald Trump's head for his assassination. Obviously, that should be taken very seriously. And we're taking your phone calls at 702-257-5396. Again, that number to call is 257-5396. Before we take phone calls, I just wanted to play you a quick cut from Tucker Carlson. And this, again, Tucker Carlson's somebody that this is a guy that said the idea of white supremacy is a hoax. The guy says some just moronic things, and he's a huge Trump supporter, I guess you could say. Where's the Donald Trump knee pads? But with that being said, he's one who is not defending Trump on this one, even though he's not mentioning Donald Trump. And then he's saying, well, there's a lot of evil, murderous dictators out there. Why don't we go after all of them? So this is Tucker Carlson on Fox News on Friday.
Simple, and any politician who tells you otherwise is dumb or is lying. Yes, Soleimani was linked to the deaths of Americans. Nobody mourns his passing. But Mexico and China are also linked to the deaths of Americans. Each has flooded our country with narcotics from which tens of thousands of Americans die every single year. Not that anyone in power cares. So does that mean we get to bomb Oaxaca? Can we start assassinating generals in the People's Liberation Army? Maybe. Maybe Ben Sass will call for that too. He's a former consultant and a very tough character.
I can't believe I'm saying this. I could not agree with Tucker Carlson more. And that is why I brought up Yasser Arafat and other evil, murderous dictators around the world. Are we just going to start wars with everybody? Are we just going to nuke everybody? Are we just going to assassinate everybody? I agree with Tucker, JD, on that one. And he's right, even though he didn't specifically mention Donald Trump because he's a coward. But he's absolutely right.
By that logic, then the same thing can be applied to every single, Budweiser, Marlboro. They kill more people than all those drugs that have been infiltrating the United States streets.
But I understand, but I'm not going to compare an alcohol distributor to an evil, murderous dictator.
No, he's suggesting people that have been flooding the streets with drugs, the Mexican cartels that have been flooding the streets with drugs.
You understand the point he's making.
I get what he's saying. I totally get what he's saying.
And I agree with him.
I'm not sure that I agree with him.
Okay, I do. There's many murderous dictators around the world right now that have killed far more people than Mr. Salami.
If a Mexican cartel decides to attack an embassy in one of those countries, then I guess that would make sense. But again, this Soleimani attacked the United States embassy. He met up with people that attacked the embassy on his behalf.
We get that. He's a bad guy. He's killed innocent people.
But that's why they went after him. And
we don't know that.
Brent just said it very, very clearly.
We don't know that.
Soleimani was on Obama's radar as well. And I talked to my younger brother, who is a captain in the Army. He just stationed in Fort Lewis. He told me verbatim that Soleimani was added to the United States terrorist list in 2019.
Yasser Arafat.
So he has been on their radar for quite some time, and they took the opportunity when they had it.
Yasser Arafat was on that list for 30 years. We never went after him. Answer that one. That's all I'm saying. I get what you're saying, but I'm also, listen, if I had it my way, every single one of these bastards would be gone. Let's take some more phone calls. 702-257-5396. Let's go to Brian. Brian, you're next up on the Vegas Take. What's going on, my friend?
What's up, Brian?
Hey, guys. If lightning strikes the studio, it can't come through the phone, right?
That's true. That's true.
Very, very valid.
I mean, you agreeing with Tucker, that's got to be a landmark there.
Well, because he said something, Brian, and I think you would agree with this as well. You're a logical guy. He said something that is extremely logical. We can't start wars with everybody. We can't knock off every evil, murderous person that has killed, American soldiers. That would be a disaster. He said it with China. He's absolutely right. There are people in China right now that are responsible for killing a lot more people than this guy Salami. Does that mean we should feel sorry for Salami and his family? Of course not.
But I think if the United States had an embassy in China and that was attacked by someone who also killed hundreds of thousands of people in China itself, there would be a response. That's the difference here, is that this Soleimani attacked the United States embassy in Iran.
Brian, what do you say to that?
Well, I got a challenge for you guys first. I want to change the subject real quick. Before the end of the holiday season, I talked to you about challenging you two to go see a movie called No Safe Spaces, done by Adam Carolla and Dennis Prager.
I did not.
Playing at the Regal Village Square, right up in your area where your studio is located.
Are you asking me out on a date live on the radio?
No. I've seen the movie. I want you guys to see it.
I thought you
want
were.
to hear your opinions.
I thought you were offering to wine and dine me. I apologize.
TGI Fridays.
All right, I'll tell you what, Brian. I'm going to do my best to try to see that movie. I just saw the Adam Sandler movie. Do you have anything you want to say though about this whole situation in Iran?
I do.
Okay.
And one other thing. if you do see that movie, you will be able to get Dennis Prager and Adam Carolla on your show, and I think
love
it'll
Adam.
be a great hour.
Yeah, well, I love Adam Carolla, and I've actually interviewed him before. He's a great guy, and his story is amazing. He's also a motivational speaker, and he had nothing in his life, and he turned it into something. So I have a tremendous amount of respect for him. Okay, go ahead, Brian.
All right, let's go back to Pompeo.
Yep.
I believe that Pompeo is not going to be a VP candidate, but this is what's going to happen. After Trump's second term, which he will win by a landslide, Pompeo will be the presidential candidate with the vice president of Nikki Haley, and he will be elected in a landslide.
Boy, I hope you're wrong. I hope you're wrong on that. But Brian, if you're right, I will certainly give you kudos. I always appreciate the phone call, Brian. Thank you for calling in. And I will we'll try to see that movie. 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Robert, you are next up on the Vegas Take. What do you make of all this?
Good morning. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
You know, it's great when we get rid of a bad, evil man in this world, but at the same time, we're overlooking that we might have done the mullahs and the Ayatollah a favor. And how we did that was now they have a martyr. You know, Soleimani was a man who was powerful. He had wealth. He spoke out of turn. He spoke his mind. And they don't like that in Iran. The power's supposed to be with the Ayatollah and the religious. And he really didn't fall in that category.
Yeah.
Now they have a martyr.
Yeah. No, in a way, I understand what you're saying, Robert, and you might be right. Again, my concern, number one, starts with the troops, putting them in harm's way. And like we just played a Tucker Carlson clip, and I can't believe I'm agreeing with him, but I am. You know, are we going to do this with other foreign, leaders in government and other countries that are responsible for killing innocent Americans? I mean, see, here's where I think when it's convenient for Trump, he believes the CIA, right? When it's convenient for Trump, he's like, let's go with our intelligence. But when it makes him maybe look bad, for example, when the Russians interfered in our elections, and we know they did, and when Vladimir Putin says, I had nothing to do with it, Trump doesn't believe the CIA because he's a phony. So why should we believe a phony when he says this man was planning attacks on Americans? I want to know more information, and I think that's very fair.
I agree. You know, I am a Trump supporter. But I also think that we elected a man that in the 70s and 80s wore plaid pants with white leather shoes and a belt. He was a used car salesman.
Yeah,
and
you're
that
right.
is what we elected.
You're right.
And, you know, we knew that when we brought him on.
Yeah.
He's not your status quo politician. He's Donald Trump.
I've said that before.
Yeah, I admire it in one sense, and I understand what you're talking about. The one thing that bothers me on both sides of the aisle is that verbatim, we take it word for word, that what our man is saying is, no matter what he says, it's right. Well, I'm not one of those people.
Robert,
I think we have to
well, you can't be one of those people.
Yeah. Robert,
you
I
have
just
to look
want
at
to say
both sides and apply it to the circumstances.
I just want to say this, Robert. You are one of those people that I would call a very reasonable Republican, and I wish there were more people like you in this country, whether on the left or the right. You sound like a reasonable guy. I just have no patience for people that are extreme on both sides of the aisle, Robert. And quite frankly, I wish there were more people out there like you. I really mean that.
And it's a shame because those people that we're discussing right now are the people that vote in the primaries are the ones that are picking our presidential
Yeah, you're right. Make no mistake about it, Robert.
And you have the fundamentals on each side doing that.
And it hurts the country. It hurts the country, Robert. Go ahead, JD. Did you?
Not for Robert. I would different.
Thank you for the call, Robert. I appreciate it.
Good call, Robert.
Thank you. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you.
Absolutely. You know, one thing that bothered me a lot about this $80 million bounty is that they didn't specify that it had to be an Iranian citizen. Who's to say that a U.S. citizen couldn't, a Trump hater, and there's obviously a lot of them out there.
Well, it's a very dangerous thing to say.
I mean, it's a horrible thing to say, and whoever's responsible for this should be dealt with immediately because they did not. I mean, $80 million is a lot of money.
Okay,
there's a lot of hate for Donald Trump in the country. I would not be surprised if a couple of United States citizens reached out to people in Iran and said, "Hey,
it was a eulogist that
want
said this. Yeah.
Whatever. I want this $80 million, and I'm going to try to attempt to assassinate the president of the United States." That's absolute lunacy.
I agree. Let me just give people some background on what you're talking about. So there was a eulogist at General Salami, as I like to call him, funeral, who said if every Iraqi, anyone in Iran donates $1, we'll raise $80 million for the head of Donald Trump. I'm kind of paraphrasing, but that's what he said. And nobody in this country, whether you are way to the left or the right, nobody should support that. Is it better that, listen, I wish it was never said, but is it better that it wasn't actually someone in the government that said that? I would have taken that even more seriously. But
that would have been an actual act of war, a declaration
if somebody
of war.
says that,
100%.
Yeah. Let's take your phone calls again, 702-257-5396. Why don't we go to Marge? Marge, you're next on the Vegas Take. How are you?
What's up, Marge?
Good morning. The president of Diversion basically backtracked a little bit this morning. I'm not sure if you heard it or not, but on those historical sites, they're saying now that some of them might have some military weaponry, and so that's why they've said that. True or not, that's part of the new saga that they're
so this could be
with.
WMDs all over again.
Not WMD, but some type of whatever. It could be bombs or whatever else.
That's the first I've heard of that.
But if they have weaponry, then it makes them fair game.
Yeah,
we need evidence of that. We need evidence of that.
But who's we can't believe a lot of things that they mean to the president of Diversion. But the other thing that's bothering me, there was that call back on December 26th, I think it was, with Putin and Trump.
Yep.
And they said there was something relative to terrorism or whatever else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I within 10 days this happens. And so I'm rather.
It is ironic. It is ironic, isn't it, Marge? Yeah. And by the way, thank you for bringing that to our attention. I didn't know that weapons were now a defense of going after this guy, and we need some more information. Marge, it's always good to hear from you. We appreciate your phone call. Thank you very much.
Hey, great call, Marge.
257-5396, the number to call. Let's go to Linda. Linda, you are next on the Vegas Take. How are you?
Hey, Linda.
Oh, good. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Today?
Good. Well. What's on your mind?
I just want to ask something about Michael Avenatti, what he said about the phone call to his family.
Let me just give people some background on that, and then I'll let you ask your question, Linda, if you could hang here for a second. So we had Michael Avenatti on the show last hour, and a Trump supporter threatened his parents, called the home, asked where Michael Avenatti was. It was a very unsettling and threatening phone call, and we just had Michael on to talk about that. Okay, go ahead, Linda.
Okay, I'm just curious, when they called, did they say, hi, I'm a Trump supporter. I would like to know where your son is. If not, I'm coming for you.
Don't know the answer to that. To me, it's academic. But to me, it's academic. I don't care whether they're. I'm just giving you my personal opinion, Linda.
Right.
I don't care who they support. They could be a Hillary Clinton supporter. I think we all could agree. Making a phone call like that, going after Michael Avenatti's family, is absolutely disgusting. I would say the same thing if somebody made a phone call to a Trump supporter or a Republican. I don't care really what their political belief is. I just feel for Michael and his family having to go through that.
Right. Okay. And I agree completely with you 100%, but he's saying it's a Trump supporter. So I'm just curious if he knows that for a fact. Could it be a Jussie Smollett situation?
I don't know.
The only people who don't like Avenatti are Trump supporters.
No,
that means nobody else other than a Trump supporter could not like him.
I understand what you're getting with that, but the issue is there is actually some borderline empirical evidence here. Ever since Avenatti has gone after Trump, he's had a lot of different trolls. I mean, people that have just stalked him and harassed him on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, and now they're taking it to the next level and going after his family. And I would be shocked if it were not a Trump supporter.
Let me put it to you this way, Linda. I don't know for sure whether this person was a Trump supporter, and I didn't ask Michael that question. I don't know either, but I will say this. The people that I've talked to that go after Michael on our show page, that call into our show, are constantly Republican Trump supporters.
Yeah, I mean, we have a YouTube page, our live stream, and we have to actually shut off our comments during his segments because people say the craziest things.
And these are people that go after,
per request.
You know, these are not people that go after Michael Avenatti because of the Nike case,
right?
Or these are not people that go after Michael Avenatti because they think he might have not paid his taxes or that sort of stuff. And by the way, there's no evidence that he actually did commit a crime, and that's why it's in the court system now. He hasn't been convicted of anything. But you get where I'm going, Linda. I understand what you're saying as well. I think we both agree it was disgusting, regardless of who you support. Yeah.
And then, George Lopez, he's disgusting, too.
Yeah.
Wasn't he married, and then his wife gave him some body part, and after that, some organ that he needed? I didn't
hear about that. That's a little wacky. I didn't hear that, Linda. But
I think
and then he divorced her. Yeah, George Lopez needed something. He needed
his career is going down the drain, and he's trying to grab attention to himself.
I'm not going to comment on that because I don't know the evidence. I'm not going to comment on his career, but I will say this. and I said it to start the show, Linda. You know that, and I'm
Yeah,
trying to.
I heard you, and I agree 100%.
I'm trying to be fair. It is never okay, never to joke around about anybody, even somebody in this country, joking around about assassinating the president of the United States. I don't care if it's Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, it could be a former president, any politician, for Christ's sake. It is inappropriate and wrong. We saw what it did to what's-her-name's career. I keep forgetting her name, Kathy Griffin.
Kathy Griffin,
and you know what? Lopez needs to immediately apologize. And I appreciate the call, Linda. Good to hear from you.
Linda.
Thank you very much.
I think what Lopez did should be a jailable offense.
No,
I absolutely believe that.
I don't think you should go to jail for that. I do think, though, you should be questioned by the FBI, even though I do believe that he was joking and it was in horrible taste. I don't think you should go to jail for that, especially, in the context of he said it. Now, listen, if somebody from their home in this country actually made a real threat of the president's life, I would agree with you. This is George Lopez, sadly, trying to be funny.
But the problem is he has a giant platform and he could put the wrong idea into someone else's brain. That's why I think it's jailable, because when the average person says something, it doesn't really matter. But when George Lopez says it and millions of people see what he says, to me, that's an issue.
It is an issue, and that's why I'm calling it out, and it's disgusting, and he should immediately apologize and take down the tweet. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we have some breaking news. You're not going to believe who just said he's willing to testify in this impeachment hearing. This is unbelievable, and guess what? It is not good news for Donald Trump. I am going to tell you exactly who that is. It's breaking news, and it's coming up next. You are listening to The Vegas Take on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN.
Thinking about life insurance? What if you could make one free phone call and learn your best price from nearly a dozen highly rated, price-competitive companies? Well, that's exactly what happens when you call SelectQuote Life. For example, George is 40. He was getting sky-high quotes from other companies because he takes meds to control his blood pressure. But when I shopped around, I found him a 10-year, $500,000 policy for under $25 a month. I'm SelectQuote agent Dan Savino. And believe me, if SelectQuote isn't shopping for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote, call 800-619-0789. That's 800-619-0789. 800-619-0789. Or go to SelectQuote.com. Since 1985, we shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policy at SelectQuote.com/commercials. Or price could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad, just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Family Promise of Las Vegas, please leave a message.
I've been laid off my job, so we're facing eviction. I have 2 daughters.
I'm calling for emergency shelter for me and my 2.5-year-old son.
I'm a single father with a 14-year-old daughter looking for emergency shelter.
Join with Family Promise of Las Vegas, where our mission is to bring homeless families with children home again, one family at a time. Visit fplv.org and become a friend of our family today.
101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN, the talk of Las Vegas. Sean Hannity, weekdays noon to 3 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN.
I believe that is the sounds of Michael Bolton. I believe that's when a man loves a woman. Well, guess what? Oh, there he is. Wait, is he testifying against Donald Trump? Is he related to John Bolton? I'm just curious. I don't know. Anyway, welcome back to the show. One of the best references, one of my favorite movies, Office Space. You know, Michael Bolton. Nothing was wrong with that name until some ass clown decided to win Grammys. One of my favorite movies of all time. Anyway, the reason why we bring up Mr. Bolton is because it was just announced, this is breaking news, that he is now willing to testify in the Senate impeachment trial if subpoenaed. Guess what? This is really, really big news. Really big news and really bad news for Donald Trump because remember, number one, Bolton does not appear to me to be a big Donald Trump fan. Remember, he was forced to resign. Number two, Bolton has allegedly, based on sources, all the information to say that this was a quid pro quo. In fact, many sources are saying that Bolton is the one that told the president to not withhold the money in this Ukrainian situation with the aid. If Bolton testifies that, say what you want about Bolton, but if he testifies under oath that there was 100% a quid pro quo and that he advised the president not to withhold aid and he withheld the aid anyway, give me a reason how a Republican cannot vote to get this guy out of office. That would be beyond damning. So this is big news. And again, if you're just joining us, John Bolton, not Michael Bolton, John Bolton will be testifying if he is subpoenaed. This is huge news. And by the way, just some other breaking news. We were talking about George Lopez, the comedian, who made a joke, and we knew it was a joke, about the assassination of the president, which is never funny. He just made a comment to Fox News saying that the comment was just a joke. I'm sorry, Mr. Lopez, that is not good enough and that's not an appropriate response. We know that you are not probably trying and thinking in your head of how to execute the president and kill the president of the United States. We know it was a joke. The point is it was a joke in bad taste, and it's never funny to make a joke about assassinating the president.
And you know who else has $40 million? George Lopez.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. So let me ask you.
George Soros definitely does.
So let me ask you a question, JD.
It's right up his alley.
Let me ask you a question, JD. You just said George Lopez should go to jail for this. Ted Nugent back in 2012 said Obama can suck on my machine gun. Do you think Ted Nugent should have gone to jail for that?
We're talking about his phallus as his machine gun.
Ted Nugent said you can suck on my machine gun.
Had someone offered up a bounty on Obama's head, and Ted Nugent said, "Yeah, I'm totally. That would be totally different."
So you don't think
I don't think what Ted Nugent did is as egregious as what George Lopez did.
I think they're both exactly at the same level.
To me, they're not.
To me, they're at the same level.
Because one specifies a $40 million or an $80 million bounty from another country on killing the president of the United States. The other one says, he can suck on my machine gun.
Okay, so why can't we just say they're both inappropriate?
They are inappropriate, but I think that George Lopez is worse, and in my opinion, jailable because, again, he has that giant platform. Not that Nugent doesn't either. But again, it'd be different if there was a major bounty on Obama's head, and Nugent reinforced that positively,
I'll say it
which is exactly what Lopez did.
I'm not defending Lopez. I've said it's inappropriate. I think they're both inappropriate. Ted Nugent is a musician. Lopez is a comedian. It was a horrendous joke that he made. Ted Nugent, I think the guy's a whack job. To me, they're both inappropriate and horrific statements because you're talking about physically, either killing or making a joke about hurting the president of the United States.
You're trying to prove that I've got a bias towards a right-winger in the situation. I just think that what Lopez did is worse because of the circumstances. Now, had Ted Nugent done anything near what Lopez did, my answer would be the exact same.
All right.
There's no bias towards Ted Nugent because he's white or because he's Republican or anything like that.
I'm not making that. I'm just saying they do it on both. They have done it on both sides in the past, and I would call both of them out as being extremely inappropriate, not funny, and it needs to stop. Ted Nugent never apologized. I'm not okay with George Lopez and his response on Fox News. We all know, George, that you're not trying to kill the president, but what we also know is what you did was completely inappropriate. Apologize. I'm sorry for an inappropriate joke. It won't happen again, and then we can try to move on from this, but he didn't do that. I lost a lot of respect for George Lopez. I've met this guy before in the past. He's in Vegas a lot. He always treated me with respect. He's a nice guy. This is wrong. It is absolutely wrong, and it needs to stop.
It's the move of someone who is trying to resurrect their career and draw attention to themselves by saying something outlandish.
I don't even know if it was that.
Which a lot of people have done this. Problem is, that's what Kathy Griffin did too.
But here's where I disagree with you.
But it blew up in her face.
Here's where I disagree with you. Kathy Griffin, her career was going quite well at that time. I think she used horrific judgment. And this is another situation where I think Lopez used terrible judgment.
Well, I think that Kathy Griffin was trying to appease her base by doing that, and she went too far.
But here's the point I'm trying to make with Lopez. I don't think he thought before he tweeted this, hey, I need to get more followers. I need to make more money with my stand-up comedy. so I better tweet something about Donald Trump getting assassinated. No, I don't think he thought like that. I think he hates Trump. He's probably way on the left, and he did an impulse tweet, and he didn't think before he did it. That's what I think happened. What I'm more disappointed, not just the tweet, was his response to it. I always complain about Donald Trump. And by the way, there's a distinction between the president of the United States and a comedian who says something really stupid. Okay, the president never apologizes when it comes to anything, okay? But I'm very disappointed in Lopez in that he didn't apologize. I think, Kathy Griffin did apologize for what she did. It doesn't make it all better, but at least own what you did and apologize for it. That's the best you could ask of a human being, right? When you do something wrong, regardless of the level of it, obviously it doesn't mean you have to accept the apology, but it has to be heartfelt. And this shows me that Lopez doesn't think he did anything wrong. There are lines you don't cross, right? I think of Kramer from Seinfeld when he was at that comedy club in L.A., and it totally ruined his career. And I think he sort of deserved it. When he constantly used the N-word, I do believe he was sorry for what he did. But it doesn't mean that everybody has to accept his apology. With this Lopez thing, not everybody would have accepted his apology, but I would have had a lot more respect for him if that's the case. All right, so we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, here's what we're going to do. We don't talk a ton of Vegas Golden Knights on this show. I do enjoy going to the games. I haven't spoken a lot about Gallant, our head coach, but I think he made a huge mistake the other day, and it is the hypocrisy of the media in this town that they are not calling him out for it. He completely lost his cool in a press conference. I'll explain exactly what he did. We have the audio for it, and I'll also explain to you why we need to hold him accountable. We'll take a quick break, be back right after this. You are listening to The Vegas Take.
Kilmeade, Hannity, Levin, 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDWN, Las Vegas, a Beasley Media Group station.
Promises testimony. Congress wants Iran briefing. A surprise announcement from former Trump National Security Advisor John Bolton. Bolton says he would testify before a Senate impeachment trial if he's subpoenaed. We get more from correspondent Kylie Atwood.
John Bolton tried to reach out to Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell before he blasted this statement out on Twitter, essentially to give the Majority Leader a heads up that he was going to be saying that, yes, if I am subpoenaed, I will provide testimony in the Senate trial. Now, of course, they have not made a decision, a formal decision, as to if there will be folks that are coming up and providing testimony, witnesses that are part of this Senate trial.
Looks like Wednesday may be the day the Trump administration will brief members of Congress about the U.S. drone strike that killed Iran's top military commander. Correspondent Linda Kenyon has the latest from Capitol Hill.
Members of Congress are clamoring for the briefing after the killing of Qasem Soleimani, saying they were kept in the dark about the justification for the attack. President Trump did notify Congress of his decision, but after the fact and via Twitter. In addition, the so-called gang of 8 congressional leaders is supposed to be notified ahead of any such attacks. The congressional briefing later this week comes as the House and the Senate are poised to take up resolutions reiterating the role of Congress and of the White House when it comes to war powers.
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres is warning of the risk of any miscalculation amid the global tensions at what he says are at the highest level of the century. The UN chief says the tensions are leading more and more countries to take unpredicted decisions with unpredictable consequences. His message to the U.S. and Iran is to stop escalation. Meanwhile, European parties to the 2015 Iran nuclear deal could launch a dispute resolution process this week that might lead to renewed UN sanctions against Tehran. On Wall Street, the Dow down 9 points. I'm Mike Moss.
It's time to check the roads in the KDON Traffic Center.
This report sponsored by Lowe's. Slowing for the crash on the Western Beltway northbound at Russell. This is going to be at the on-ramp, not blocking the through lanes. Also an accident on I-15 southbound at Flamingo. Vehicles off to the right, and there is a backup. Also a crash reported on the 95 southbound at Decatur Boulevard. No new accidents to report on the surface streets. Pros do it right by shopping at Lowe's to save on the supplies they need most from the brands they trust to get the job done. Do it right for less. Start with Lowe's. I'm John Michaels from the KDON Traffic Center.
This holiday season, get the rest you deserve with Helix Sleep. Helix makes personalized mattresses to fit your unique body type and sleep preferences and give you the best sleep of your life. Go to helixsleep.com and get up to $200 off during their holiday sale.
If you own a business and want to bring attention to it, there's no better way than wrapping your vehicles. While you or your employees are driving around Vegas, let your vehicles scream about your products or services. Share with everyone on the road why you're so special with a single vehicle wrap getting anywhere from 30,000 to 80,000 views per day, according to the Outdoor Advertising Association of America. Turn your vehicles into an amazing, spectacular moving billboard. Let Intershine Graphics show you how with the best wrap in the business. Go to IntershineGraphics.com. IntershineGraphics.com.
With PatriotSoftware.com, accounting and payroll, keep your time and money.
Mike Capel here, serial entrepreneur. My second business was open 6 days a week and I worked from home the 7th day. I maintained that ridiculous schedule for 8 years. One Saturday morning in 1999, I woke up late for work and was greeted by my 6-year-old.
Oh, hi, Dad. Why aren't you at work?
I answered, because it's Saturday. He said,
Oh, thanks for visiting, Dad.
His words pierced my heart. I had become a workaholic. It was decision time. What's more important, family or work? I chose family and I stopped working 7 days a week. That's why I created Patriot Software, so entrepreneurs can run their payroll in minutes, which gives more time for their families. Go to PatriotSoftware.com. Use promo code RADIO and get 2 months of payroll processing free. That's PatriotSoftware.com.
I'm Jim Snyder.
And I'm Marie Mortera. We want to thank you for making News 3 your #1 choice for news.
Every weeknight at 11, you can count on us to have the big story of the day.
Plus breaking news that matters to you.
Jim Snyder and Marie Mortera. News 3 live at 11.
Las Vegas Divas Day Out is back. The largest women's expo returns January 25th at the Galleria at Sunset. Dozens of vendors with samples and sales of hundreds of all things favorite to women. Want to be a vendor? Go to divasdayout.com for more information. Vendor space is limited.
101.5 FM, 720 AM. KDON, the talk of Las Vegas. The opinions of the hosts on KDWN are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of this station, its management, or Beasley Media Group. Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, hour number 3. Glad you could join us, Sharp and Shapiro. By the way, coming up here at the bottom of the hour, it is incredible how sports gambling is just growing and growing and growing. So Brett Smiley from sportshandle.com, he knows exactly what's going on, which states are about to legalize. He'll be joining us coming up at the bottom of the hour. Of course, we have plenty of NFL to get to. Amazing. The Saints and the Patriots are out of the playoffs. We'll talk about that a little bit later on the program. But sticking in the sports theme, I enjoy watching Vegas Golden Knights games. I grew up a Hartford Whalers season ticket holder back in the day. I enjoy covering the team. Games are so much fun to watch. To me, it's the most exciting in-person sporting event when you're at an NHL hockey game. And, of course, the Vegas Golden Knights have done a fantastic job winning a lot of hockey games. I mean, I'm stating the obvious here, right? But in year one, making the Stanley Cup Finals is beyond incredible. And then the great year they had last year and a really good year they're having this year. So nothing to take away from Gallant, the coaching staff, the management. They have done a fantastic job in putting together a great franchise in this third year and the first 2 years, obviously. I'm stating obviosities, okay? But I bring up the Vegas Golden Knights, beside the fact that they had a great come-from-behind victory against the Blues over the weekend. And they had a good game against the Philadelphia Flyers. Flyers are a pretty good team, and they were able to defeat the Flyers. So it was a good emotional win for the Vegas Golden Knights. And then a guy by the name of David Schoen, I believe. He works for the Review-Journal. I don't know him personally. I know he covers the team. Never mentioned his name. Never really had a conversation with the guy before, so I got nothing against him. I think he asked a very legitimate question. So I want you to hear this exchange. Again, this was the other day, last week, after the Vegas Golden Knights defeated the Philadelphia Flyers. This is the post-game press conference with the head coach of the Vegas Golden Knights in Gallant. Here it goes.
You guys have struggled against teams that are kind of, I guess, above you in the standings, playoff teams, things like that. How much, I guess, important was it for you guys to get a win, maybe make a statement against a team that's obviously playing well right now?
We're negative tonight, aren't we?
like struggle against teams. We're in first place, and I thought we've had a good run the last 20-some games. And so so the whole league isn't a good league anymore. Like, come on. We just won a big game with, what are we, 10-3-2, whatever the last, like, did we not play good enough tonight to win? We're not the better team tonight? Yeah, that's the only team we can beat are the bad teams, supposedly. Like what?
Okay, so Gallant walks off. Let me be very clear on this one. And as I like to call this guy who writes articles for the Review Journal, Ed the Ass Kisser Graney, here's what I mean by that, okay? He takes Schoen's side, and he said it was a legitimate question. I agree with him on that. Here's why it's a legitimate question. The Vegas Golden Knights right now are 8-9-4 against playoff caliber teams, and they're 3-6-1 against teams ahead of them in points. Completely legitimate question. They are not beating the good hockey teams consistently. They're just not. And by the way, I want to give credit to the Vegas Golden Knight ladies on their Twitter feed for giving us that audio. They're not beating the elite teams in the NHL. Does that mean the Vegas Golden Knights are a bad team? No. Does it not mean that they didn't play well against the Flyers? No, that's not what Schoen said. But Gallant is way, way, way off on this one. First of all, it is your job to answer questions. While I think it was a completely legitimate question, if he just answered it by saying, I'm not going to be negative, I'm not going to answer that question tonight because we just had a great win against Philadelphia, I still would have a little problem with that, but I would say, okay, he wants to be positive. But here's my issue with this. With professional athletes, with coaches, it is their job to answer questions. Now, if you don't like a question, you don't have to answer it.
Part of their job is to answer questions. There's an expectation to handle the media with respect and vice versa.
What was wrong with that question?
Nothing.
Why did he get so damn defensive?
He got defensive because he relates to it, because he knows it's true and he's not happy about it. Because he knows.
Why is he such a crybaby?
It's simple in sports. If your record is 11-16 against playoff teams is after 27 games, which is a decent size sample size, and 3-6 against opponents who are probably going to be top 3 or top 4 playoff teams on each side of the conference, then there is a chance. There's actually a pretty decent chance that you're not going to go that far in the playoffs, and he knows that, and that's why he responded that way.
But there are people in the media like Ed the Ass Kisser that are saying that Gallant didn't do anything wrong, and this is typical. Whether it's typical or not.
Well, it is typical Gallant. He's not great with the media, nor does he enjoy interviews.
I'm tired of this. He gives
but
short
responding like that and basically embarrassing.
No,
this interview to me is a problem.
Listen, I'm just gonna call it for what it is. He is a crybaby. It is not the media's job to kiss his ass. It is not the media's job to kiss anybody's ass. You report on the team, you give your opinions. Doesn't mean the media's opinions are always right. But this isn't even an opinion. This is a fact. You want me to read the record again? This is why it is 150% a fair question. And there's idiots in the media in this town that cover the Knights are saying, well, he didn't word it the right way. What are you talking about? He didn't word it the right way. He worded it exactly the way you should handle it. He wasn't knocking the team or saying, oh, you can't beat good teams. He said, basically, you've struggled against the elite teams. What does it mean for your team? He was actually being positive. He said, what does it mean for your team? The statement you made tonight to beat a good hockey team. It was a positive question.
And they beat the St. Louis Blues, correct?
This was after the Philadelphia Flyers game. They just beat the Blues, but I'm not talking about the Blues. I'm just talking about after the Philadelphia Flyers game, another good hockey team. This was a positive question because he ended it in a positive way. This guy did absolutely nothing wrong. I take his side 100%. Why is Gallant such a crybaby? Listen, he's a very good hockey coach. This organization has done phenomenal things. I will not understate that. Phenomenal what they've done year 1, year 2, and so far in year 3. This is a good hockey team. This is a playoff hockey team. There's a reason why they're where they're at in the standings. They're very good. They're a good playoff team. Do I think they're going to win the Stanley Cup? No. Do I think they're going to win the Western Conference? No. I think they have a chance to get to the Western Conference Finals, but they do struggle against the elite teams because I don't think they're an elite team. That is just my personal opinion. And it's not being negative, Gallant. It's about being honest. Why couldn't you answer the question like this? We'd like to win every hockey game. We'd like to defeat the better teams in the league. I think we're on the way to do that. Why couldn't he say that? That would have been easy. Move on to the next question.
I don't have an issue. I mean, I'm not saying he has to answer it any specific way, but handling it that way, the way that he did, was just
classless.
Was totally unacceptable and unprofessional.
I agree. Completely classless is the word. He got up and he left.
And to me, I think that he knows this guy's right. and he's worried about it because you're looking at well, I'll call it a 5 to 7 game series based on this record. They're not going to make it out of round 1.
Well, I'm not about to go that far. But the point I'm trying to make here is very simple. And it is that Gallant did not handle this properly. Ed the Ass Kisser wants to write an article and defend Gallant, which doesn't surprise me. This is also the same idiot that wrote an article saying that Tony Sanchez did everything here but win. So this guy has zero credibility as far as I'm concerned.
Do you think he actually believes the things that he writes, or he just? I could never report on something that I actually don't think.
Here's what
I could never just make up. I couldn't think against what I'm actually believing. I couldn't just to appease a specific part of my readership or my listenership or my viewer base, whatever it is. I couldn't just lie to these people and not be. I don't have it in me to do that. So you think you think he actually believes what he thinks?
I'll answer
what he's writing.
I'll answer it by saying this: I don't think you have to have played a sport or be elite as an athlete to be a good sports writer. But with that being said, I certainly think it helps.
It matters.
And I don't believe Ed Graney from the Review Journal has ever played a sport at a high level in his life.
He may have been a good bowler.
Here's what I also believe. He's been writing for a very long time. He thinks he's Mr. Invincible, and all of his opinions matter more than they do. I believe he also thinks that, and I also think he's an ass kisser. And he's also on the wrong side of history when it comes to a lot of things, including UNLV. He was a big supporter of Dave Rice. He was friends with Dave Rice. He was a big supporter of him. He was wrong about that. He was wrong about Marvin Menzies. He's wrong about a lot of things. But I don't mind it if somebody's wrong about a lot of things. I mind it when you can't take a stand on something, too. And this whole interaction where he's defending David Schoen, which I agree with, his coworker, and then he defends Gallant, too. Take a frickin' stand on something, you wussy. I'm tired of people in this town. They'll go after certain people, if they don't other people's in the media. But when it comes to UNLV, the Vegas Golden Knights, take a frickin' stand on something, you wussy. How can you defend a coach walking out of a press conference getting angry after one of your coworkers asked a perfectly legitimate question, and you're going to say it's typical and it's fine and it's not a big deal? Shame on you. I hope they rip your credential from your neck because you don't deserve to cover this team. You've got no heart. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of people in this town that do crap like that. I'm tired of it. I support you. I want UNLV basketball to succeed, but there are some people in the media that think they're a Final Four team because they've won a couple games. I'm tired of it. It's a joke. When you read somebody's article like that and they make it's okay, this gets me so riled up. I got to take a deep breath. It's okay for the head coach of an organization to walk angrily and embarrass a reporter who asked a perfectly legitimate question. People should call him out for that.
Let me ask you this. What if Gallant had given us 4 interviews in the last 16 months on our show?
I don't care. That has nothing to do with what I'm talking about.
You don't have a little bit of anger because we haven't gotten a chance to interview Gallant.
And by the way, here's where I agree with Marc-Andre Fleury. Here's why I agree. He said, I hope someone asks Turk again. I want to see what happens. I do too. I don't cover the team at practices. I don't go to their press conferences, but I hope somebody does ask that question again because I think it's a legitimate question. And let's see the way he reacts this time. I bet you he won't react the same way. I bet you he won't walk out of the press conference. And here's the way I would phrase the question. Coach, you guys have been playing some great hockey over the last few weeks, and the standings certainly prove that. I understand you were very unhappy with the question that the reporter asked from the RJ after your win over Philadelphia. But can you please answer this question? Why is it you think that you've struggled against some of the elite teams in the league, and do you consider this team an elite team? That's exactly the way I would phrase the question. That is perfectly, and if you went off on me, I would just stand there and say it's a perfectly legitimate question.
He would look very bad if he did that.
I wouldn't backtrack. I think that is a perfectly legitimate question. Why is it that people in this town give people like Gallant a pass? Why? I asked why. Because they have a relationship with the Vegas Golden. I don't understand. Are they afraid they're going to get their credential taken away?
I think part of it is that they want their questions to be answered. They want to be able to get content. Remember, this is all about generating content for KTNV or Las Vegas.
They're not going to take your credentials away for asking a question.
Just hear me out, Brian. And I think that they're very, very happy that Las Vegas finally has professional sports, and they're doing whatever they can to foster that. But the bottom line is when you report like that and you're totally biased in one direction, even when someone makes a mistake, you lose credibility to your readership and to your listenership and to your viewership, and that doesn't fly in major markets. And I think that a lot of these reporters, they still think that Las Vegas is a small market. And then the truth is Las Vegas is growing. And honestly, if you look at it, you look at the average on paper, Las Vegas is a market 35. But I would say probably 80% of males follow sports in Las Vegas. I would say that probably 70% of women and males in Las Vegas follow sports. And I think that based on that data, Las Vegas is more like market 5 or 6. So with professional sports coming to Las Vegas, and with the NBA and the NFL and NHL and MLB and the Aces, right now you have to report accurately. I think you're going to have to report accurately to make it in Las Vegas as a writer. And I don't think that a lot of writers in this city understand that yet.
Let me be very clear, though. This could be market number 1 or market number 300. I would still be giving the same opinions. I think Ed Graney is an ass kisser. Here's what he writes in his article, which is completely academic to the story. We know the Vegas Golden Knights have played well over the course of the last month or so. So he writes in his article in defending Gallant, they're 15-6-3 since November 17th, have compiled an NHL best 33 points over that span. That is completely academic to the question. We all know they've been winning games over the last month. The question is, they're not winning games against the elite teams in the league on a consistent basis. The record speaks for itself on that. It has nothing to do with how they've played over the last month. And you're defending Gallant, walking out of a press conference, embarrassing a reporter who asked a very legitimate question. He needs to be called out for that.
And I'll be honest about this. Las Vegas Golden Knights, they're now number 1 in futures to win the NHL Stanley Cup. They're 7-1.
They're not winning the Stanley Cup.
I don't think they are either. But Westgate and a lot of major books in Vegas,
because they know they're going to get a lot of action from Vegas
they're getting
fans.
a ton of action.
Yeah,
and they've been playing. I mean, the Blues were 26-10. They beat them at home. They beat the Flyers, obviously. So they are playing well. Picking up Chandler Stevenson was a big deal. He scored 8 goals since he joined the team. So they've made the team better. But do I think they're elite? No, I don't.
Listen, people lose their cool sometimes. It happens to me all the time. Then again, I'm not the head coach of an NHL team. But am I saying Gallant committed a crime here? No. But what I am saying is he acted inappropriately at the press conference. It was inappropriate, and at the very least, he should have apologized to David Schoen. But he won't do that because I believe he has a huge ego. He's not good with the media. He gives short answers. Look, there are some people within the Vegas Golden Knights organization, I'm talking about some players, that are fantastic with the media. And then there are some players that are not. And that's okay. Maybe you're just not a social person. Maybe you're just not very good and you don't like the media. Whatever the case may be, that's fine. We all have different personalities. That's the way Gallant is. He's just not great with the media, period. But that's not why I'm going after him today. I'm going after him with his behavior and the way he acted after that press conference. And if people like Ed Graney want to defend him and they want to say, well, it's not really a big deal, 2 professionals, go about their way, and that's kind of what he said, Gallant did not act like a professional in that moment. He was not a professional. He didn't respond the right way. It's bad enough that he's not great with the media. He doesn't give great answers. But to respond like that is absolutely ridiculous. You can't. What is the issue here? You can't. It's amazing. You can't be critiqued at all. Is your team perfect? Give me a break.
It comes down to being very, very insecure and recognize the fact that this reporter was correct in asking that question because he related to it.
Yeah.
That being said, I don't think Gallant has had to be good with the media. He came into a situation, again, Vegas was thrilled to have professional sport. Then he comes out and he makes the Stanley Cup Finals. I mean, who was going to question him at that point? In his first year in a brand new expansion organization.
See, but this isn't about winning.
But that's why he hasn't had to really answer to the media because everybody just kind of worships him like a god because he's been so successful.
Which is ridiculous.
Vegas is so happy to have just like the same thing will happen with John Gruden when he's here with the Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, Vegas they're very, very we are very, very fortunate and excited to have professional sports here.
We're very excited to have the Raiders coming to town. But I'm going to tell you something. If John Gruden is doing a press conference after a game and he treats a member of the media the same way Gallant treated a member of the media, I would say the exact same thing.
And the thing is, Gruden would never do that because he's a charismatic guy. He's great with the media. That would never take place. But that's why I think Gallant has gotten a pass because he's been so successful. Had he not been successful.
But you agree with me. You don't think he deserves a pass.
Well, no, I'll put it this way. Had he not been successful, and he treated the media the same way, I don't think he'd still be here.
Do you remember Marvin Menzies at a practice when he said there were racial epithets? When he knew his job was on the line, he made that racial epithets comment, and then a couple months later he loses his job. I think that was certainly a part of it. And in no way am I saying Gallant's going to lose his job. He's doing a fantastic job. I've said that from the beginning. He's a great coach. This organization every single member of the coaching staff to management to scouting. They have all done a fantastic job. And this has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with the way he behaved in that press conference.
And he knows that, and that's why he's able to behave the way he does.
Yeah,
because
well,
he's been successful. The city needs professional sports.
Yeah. I'll tell you what the city doesn't need. You know what they don't need? Another ass kisser like Ed Graney writing articles, not doing his job properly. That's what I'm going to say. We don't need more Ed Graneys in Las Vegas, the ass kissers of journalism. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, speaking of hockey, remember this story? Former Stars coach Jim Montgomery. We were trying to figure out why he got fired. Well, we have a little insight into what has taken place. I'll explain what that means coming back. You're listening to the Vegas Take right here on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON.
When Allstate agents and employees go to work every day, their number one priority is protecting what matters most to you. For military veterans, that instinct to protect also comes naturally. No wonder thousands of veterans build good careers with Allstate. And now, Allstate is ranked the number one employer on the 2020 Military Friendly Employers list. You're in good hands with Allstate.
For career opportunities or to get a quote, contact Allstate today. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit beefy, or even with type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Affordable term life insurance is out there. Call Term Provider and speak with Big Lou at 800-481-1458. 800-481-1458 or visit biglou.com. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too.
Imagine crossing a street busy with traffic. Against the light.
Watch where you're going!
Wearing a blindfold. Would you do this? Probably not. It's one risk obviously not worth taking. Some risks aren't as obvious, yet could be just as deadly, like the risk for type 2 diabetes. If you're overweight or over 45, if you're not very active, or don't eat as healthy as you should, there's an easy test you can take to find out your risk. It's free, and in less than a minute, you'll know if you're at risk for this deadly disease. Just go to diabetes.org/take-the-test or call 1-800-DIABETES. Because type 2 diabetes is one risk you can't afford to take. Take the diabetes risk test and stop diabetes before it stops you. A message from the American Diabetes Association.
Sean Hannity, weekdays noon to 3 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take. Sharp and Shapiro, so glad you could join us on a Monday. Coming up here in a few minutes, Brett Smiley from Sports Handle will be joining us. But our producer, Jason Stein, in studio here. I wanted to set the scene on this story with this hockey coach, or former hockey coach, Montgomery, who got into a little bit of trouble over the course of the last several weeks. Jason, what's going on with this story?
Brian, I normally don't care about hockey, and I really, not even the Golden Knights so much. But this one caught our eye a few weeks back. The head coach of the Dallas Stars, Jim Montgomery, was mysteriously fired. Now, they're a good team, right? They're a pretty good team.
Very
All
good.
of a sudden, they fire their coach for no reason, a public reason whatsoever. The guy's gone. And we were all scratching our heads going, what's going on here? And for weeks, nothing came out. Now we're getting a little bit, finally, a little hint of what maybe contributed to his problems and why he was fired. He just announced, day or two ago, that he's entering a treatment program for alcohol. He's got alcohol problems, and he's saying, yeah, the Dallas Stars, they did the right thing by letting me go. Now, at first I thought, bam, we got our answer. He was drunk, and they fired him for being drunk. But if you read a little closer and you look at his statement, there's some real questions here.
You think there's a chance he just whipped it out in the locker room?
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of possibilities here.
He wasn't fired because he has an alcohol problem. Because if you had an alcohol problem, it's okay. You go into rehab and you come back and coach the team when you're better.
Could it be possible that he was masturbating in the showers?
He did something very egregious.
What do you think?
And now he's blaming it.
It's not a
blaming
DUI.
It on alcohol.
It's not. There were no arrests,
Right.
so it's not. I guess it wasn't something criminal. It's just something inappropriate. I don't know.
I'm leaning towards your theory.
I think it's something sexual.
He pulled it out and is now blaming it on alcohol, oh, I've got a problem. See, that's the thing. They never get help
Tiger Woods
before they whip it out.
Remember when Tiger Woods was banging everybody and he finally got caught, and then he went to
I got a sex problem.
Yeah, I have a sex problem. Yeah, okay, yeah, you're David Duchovny and all these people.
Right.
They bang all these people and infidelity, and then they get caught, and then they say, well, I have a sex problem. Listen, we all have sex problems. Okay,
Right.
we all have sex problems in our own ways. And it's just completely ridiculous, and it's disappointing.
You know what they say with it's not a scientific fact, but when you drink, like your true character comes out.
I agree with that.
Right?
I agree
and
with
so
that.
it kind of exagerates who you are, and it plays to all your worst instincts. So listen,
Mel Gibson.
I get drunk all the time, and I act like a fool, but I don't whip it out. I mean,
Thank God.
Assuming that's what he did. I mean,
Thank God.
look for them to fire a successful head coach.
Yeah.
I mean, it has to be along those lines.
So
it has to be sexual assault or harassment or.
I put up a Twitter.
Something like
put up a Twitter questionnaire. I said, "What do you think this guy did to get fired?" One of them was masturbate. The other one was bang somebody within the organization. Their daughter or somebody like that,
or both.
And that was what led the poll. They think that he was having sexual relations with somebody within the organization, but that doesn't make sense to me now, because if he had an alcohol problem, it means he did something he did something really off the charts, and he must have been tanked. And yeah, he might have dropped trowel. It might have been masturbation. It could have been anything. We're speculating. But I find it very interesting that he says he's going into rehab,
Right.
but they're still not saying what he did wrong. I want to know.
Yeah, and you got to read his statement. I mean, this is a very, very well crafted, vague statement by his lawyers.
We
I'm
only got 1
sure.
minute, but
yeah, no, it's just it leaves it open as to what he actually did. He doesn't really admit to anything. The team's decision to end my role forced me to look in the mirror and decide whether I wanted to continue living a damaging lifestyle or get help. I decided to get help.
do you think he put the biscuit in the wrong basket? Do you think that's possible?
What does that mean?
Do you think he might have high-sticked somebody? I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying.
What does that even mean?
Sexual innuendos.
Oh,
You've never
okay.
heard that before? Put the biscuit in the basket?
Biscuit in the
You've
basket?
never heard
Is that
before.
not a hockey term?
You really don't know what I'm talking
No,
about,
I
do
don't know
you?
what you're talking
Okay. Wow, that's incredible.
Maybe you got the problem.
No, I don't have the problem. I've heard sexual innuendos with hockey all the time. I guess you've never high-sticked anybody because you've got a JV stick.
Are you amazed? You and I have been in media for a while. Are you amazed this hasn't come out? Like
Yes.
that
Somebody knows.
Somebody hasn't leaked it to a reporter.
That's a good
right?
point.
Right?
Some-
It'll come out though.
Somebody
It'll come
knows,
out.
and we are going to find out. All right, thanks, Jason. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Brett Smiley from Sports Handle will be joining us live. You're listening to the Vegas Take right here on 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON.
Advisor John Bolton says he would testify before a Senate impeachment trial of the president after he declined to appear before the House impeachment. Correspondent Linda Kenyon reports Bolton says he would have to be subpoenaed to testify.
Bolton, who left the White House in September, has released a statement that reads, "I've had to resolve the serious competing issues as best I could, based on careful consideration and study. I have concluded that if the Senate issues a subpoena for my testimony, I am prepared to testify." Previously, Bolton said a judge should resolve whether he should be compelled to testify.
Chevron's evacuated all of its American oil workers from Iraq following last week's U.S. airstrike in Baghdad, and the head of the United Nations is calling for de-escalation. When Congress is briefed on Iran, Secretary of State Pompeo, CIA Director Haspel, and Joint Chiefs Chairman Milley will brief lawmakers behind closed doors. The Dow up about 5. I'm Mike Moss.
It's time to check the roads in the KDON Traffic Center.
This report sponsored by Lowe's. Watch for slowing for the crash on the 215 Western Beltway northbound at Russell at the on-ramp. Vehicles off right, not blocking the through lanes. Also a crash reported I-15 southbound at Flamingo off to the right. And an accident 95 southbound at Decatur. Also vehicles off to the right there as well. And on the surface streets, watch for slowing for the crash on Tropicana at Decatur. Pros do it right by shopping at Lowe's to save on the supplies they need most from the brands they trust to get the job done. Do it right for less. Start with Lowe's. I'm John Michaels from the KDON Traffic Center.
Hi, I'm Raymond Denon, Vice President of Optima Tax Relief. If you're in debt to the IRS, there's a lot you need to know. Starting with rule number 1, don't mess with the IRS. They can garnish your paycheck, levy your bank accounts, even take your home or business. That's all true. But it's also true that there's a way out. It's called the Fresh Start Initiative. It's one of the biggest breaks the IRS has ever offered. If you qualify, you could save thousands, even tens of thousands. Nobody knows this program like us, the experts at Optima Tax Relief. We have an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau, and we've resolved over $500 million in tax debt for our clients. We'll stand between you and the IRS and fight to get you the best deal possible. Don't mess with the IRS. For tax help you need, for tax help you can trust, call Optima for a free consultation.
Call 800-375-2922. 800-375-2922. 800-375-2922.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
You're in charge of hiring, and Indeed has solutions, like online skills tests, which let a candidate show that they're the right hire. Indeed will also give you this sticky frog, which will suddenly leap and stick to the face of the perfect hire. Okay, there's no sticky frog. But skills tests, that's a for sure.
See why independent research by Silk Road shows Indeed delivers 3 times more hires than any other job site. Post your next job at Indeed.com/hire and try skills tests for free. Terms and conditions apply.
The new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON. Sean Hannity, weekdays noon to 3 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. Glad you could join us on a Monday. Hey, if you disagree with us and our thoughts on the Vegas Golden Knights and the Gallant situation, hit us up on Twitter at the Vegas Take, and we will gladly respond to that. But I think we're certainly on the right when it comes to the way Gallant handled that press conference. But want to move on now. Obviously, some big gambling weekends coming up. There was one over the weekend, of course, with some big NFL games that took some pretty big handles as far as from a sports gambling perspective. And now we've learned that New Hampshire has become the 14th state to legalize sports gambling. Well, the guy we have with us on the line right now, this is what he does for a living. He covers this stuff. His name is Brett Smiley, and he works for sportshandle.com. Brett, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm doing very well. I like the Green Day intro and glad to be with you guys.
No problem. Yeah, we're in that 90s alternative rock grunge era,
No,
right?
One of us is. One of us is. One of us is internally in that era.
Yeah, but you're like millennial / I don't know what I would call JD, but anyway. So Brett, what do you make of this now? New Hampshire becoming the 4th state to legalize. What do you make of that?
Well, did you say 14th? It's hard to keep track, but it's something closer to 20th. Although
yeah, it's
not
20.
in every state has it actually begun yet. New Hampshire's interesting because they don't have any traditional casinos. They have some sort of charity things. They're doing the law allowed up to 5 mobile sports books and some local ones, but what they decided to do is have an RFP process and get a bunch of bids, and effectively they just chose one. They're using DraftKings Sportsbook, and so there'll be no competitive marketplace other than the lottery's own thing. So I think that's the most notable aspect of what's going on there. I don't think it's a good thing for anyone except DraftKings. And maybe the lottery to a lesser extent. So on the one hand, it's good to see more states coming around. On the other hand, wish they would allow some open competition.
So speaking of DraftKings, they were just given a valuation of $3.3 billion. That seems pretty high to me, considering they've only been around for, at a national media level for about 2 years. Do you think that number's going to go up, and do you see any competitors coming through?
Honestly, I don't know. I didn't dig into their financials. There are some others who may have. I think that was all together with SB Tech, which already has a number of partners, and but they're looking for that capital infusion so they can make it into some additional states, such as Michigan, which just there's a couple new sports books that have basically gained access to Michigan today.
Yeah, another state in the Midwest that just legalized is Iowa, my home state. And in month 3, they did $60 million in handle, which I thought I was actually surprised it would be that high. I think a market of that size, I think a mature market for the state of Iowa, in a year and a half, once they're not just betting football and basketball, once they're betting all the sports, I think it can be, close to $250 to $300 million a month. Do you agree with that?
253. I don't think that's crazy. I think the ceiling will be raised this time next year, because right now you have to go physically into a sports book to open an online account.
Right.
Whereas in New Jersey, from the northern part of the state where I am, I could access any of the books that are available through Atlantic City just by going online. So the point is, there'll be more accounts open and more wagers placed. People will like books they like better, and so that'll increase, which doesn't answer your question. And I don't think 250 is unreasonable. What is there, like 3.5 million people there, and obviously a lot of college fanatics?
Yeah, exactly. And there's nothing to do, and I think that you're going to see that in a lot of these Midwestern states where there just isn't a lot going on. Gambling is something that they enjoy doing along with drinking, and maybe together at the same time, which makes the results even worse, which is great for the books. So New Jersey did $556 million, I believe, last month. They've done almost $4 billion since legalizing in May of 2018. Do you think they're going to pass Vegas eventually as the epicenter as far as handle?
That's kind of the ongoing question. There was 1 month early. It was kind of one of those kind of down months in May when March Madness is over and NBA is not in the playoffs yet. Population-wise, they should be able to. Pennsylvania maybe claw back a little bit of the clientele was there, and New York will finally come around. But I think it's a reasonable assumption that maybe the next 3-4 years, New Jersey is a little bit higher than where Nevada is, and that's although Nevada just established their own new record for a single month with 614 something in in December. So people are always wondering, is the nationwide legalization, is that going to harm or kind of depress Nevada a little bit on the sports betting front? I don't think so, because I think we're just going to continue to see more people who may have never bet on sports before or did some fantasy sports. They're getting involved and interested, and still the largest and nicest sports books are and will probably remain out in Nevada. So I think ultimately this will help them.
If you're just joining us, we're speaking with Brett Smiley. He's from sportshandle.com. This is what he does for a living, covering this stuff. So, Brett, let me ask you this question. With all the states now that have legalized sports gambling, I don't think you could make the argument on the other side of this. It is stronger and more popular than it has ever been, certainly from a legality standpoint. The big Super Bowl game is right around the corner, not that far away. Do you think that it will break all records this year and there will be more money bet on the Super Bowl than ever before?
Well, it's a little difficult because the estimates made about the volume of wagering with illegal offshores and local bookmakers, nobody really, they're just guesstimates. Something like 150 or $200 billion annually. We do now have a lot more states that are reporting their figures. But the point is, there really isn't a full accounting. Now, that said, given the much wider availability now, you can legally bet, and will soon in more states, but about 14 or 15 or whatever it is now. Yeah, I think I would certainly bet that there'll be more wagered legally between legal and illegal channels this year than in any year past. With the caveat that let's hope it's a good Super Bowl. I'm glad the Patriots were eliminated, but at least there'll be some new blood. If it's something like Ravens-Packers, that would be a pretty widely viewed game and bet.
Yeah, that would be a very, very widely viewed game. Honestly, I think either way, it could be the Titans and the Vikings. There's so many states now that have legalized sports betting, and the NFL made a statement earlier. They said, our product. Well, they didn't say their product was down, but to me, their product is down. But their ratings are through the roof because sports betting has been legalized in more states. So another state that I think is probably the most important in the grand scheme of things with sports betting is California. And California, the tribes have had some conversations about, in California, it's very, very tribe. They own most of the casinos, but they've had some conversations about legalizing it. And I think that California, in a mature market, can do almost $200 billion a year just in California. What's the update with them?
There's actually a hearing on Wednesday. There was a couple bills introduced. One of them would allow betting through the tribes only on premises, which is pretty much doesn't do any good in terms of allowing people to bet legally across the state.
Right.
And there's kind of just a battle over exclusivity, and there's card rooms one apiece, and the racetracks all want. So the conversation is happening, and they're seeing more and more states have legalized. I don't know California politics well enough to know when they might coalesce around a certain idea. But the fact that Michigan got something done after a lot of work in a state where there's a very big tribal presence, that's promising. Should be promising to others, in states such as California, Minnesota, where that might be an impediment.
How big of a sports handle do you think they could have yearly in California in a mature market?
Oh, California,
Yeah.
there's 55 million people there.
Yeah, 55 million people.
Let's see. New Jersey is doing about, let's say it'll be 5 billion, some napkin math. 80 billion, I don't know, after year two with a fully open mobile market.
Yeah, that's cool. So let's talk about the next 2 or 3 states that you think are going to legalize sports betting that no one's really talking about.
Yeah, right. And the sessions are beginning, legislative sessions in most of these states right now. So let's go right underneath Michigan. There's Ohio. There have been proposals in both the House and Senate. There's plenty of casinos there. I think they're just fighting over who would have control of the lottery or the gaming commission. I think Ohio will happen sometime in the next few months. Also Kentucky right below them, and Kentucky's kissing Missouri. They've been talking about it for 3 sessions now. And then let's just go for the full axis in the middle. Virginia, they have not had casinos. That's a totally non-gaming state, but they're looking to bring some into Norfolk and other parts of the state, and that's kind of paving the way for sports betting. So those 4, and then probably Massachusetts and Connecticut up in the Northeast sometime this year. But as Tennessee taught us, it's hard to predict. So
I just wanted to mention Connecticut real quickly. We just saw that Adam Sandler movie over the weekend, and I grew up around Mohegan Sun. We can all confirm that Mohegan Sun does not have a sports book, right?
Correct. Yeah, I've been to Mohegan a few times. Up from upstate New York. Yes, that's correct. I don't know why they chose that as a as a plot.
That
point.
was why do you think that? Okay, I understand when you mention the name
because he's in New York.
No, but I understand when you mention the name Mohegan Sun 10 times, they probably let them film there for free. I'm sure they had some sort of deal worked out. But you have Atlantic City like a couple. It was just weird that they picked that casino.
I agree with that.
I don't understand that.
Point.
I don't get that why they picked an Indian reservation in the middle of nowhere in Connecticut to place that bet. That was just I liked the movie. I thought it was a great movie, and it didn't ruin it for me. But I just thought it was weird, Brett. That's all.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I guess if you're paying Adam Sandler's $50 million, I don't know why you need to fudge it on that one.
Yeah, and by the way, last I checked, you cannot do a $160,000 parlay on the tip of an NBA basketball game, along with who wins the game and along with points, rebounds, and assists. Last time I checked, I don't think you could find one sports book that would take a bet like that.
Yeah, they took a few liberties there for sure. It was nice to see Adam Sandler in a dramatic role, but I don't know who is advising on that part of the story.
So if Kentucky legalizes, that would just be massive for horse racing. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes and no. Well, it was phenomenal for Meadowlands Racetrack, which was not doing so great, and that's adjacent to New York City in New Jersey. Monmouth Track as well. It's certainly an additional form of revenue. I guess it just depends on how it's implemented. As long as they're okay with having a mobile component as well as retail, a lot of the people in the horse race industry are a little backwards. They just assume we need to get kids here and then they'll see the horses. But if they view it as another opportunity, an extension, I think it would benefit more them that way. But there's certainly potential.
Oh, Brett, before we let you go, we always appreciate your insight on these issues. Anything that comes to sports gambling, we always like to hear from you. Can you give out the information, how people follow you on social media, and talk, please, a little bit about your website, sportshandle.com?
Yeah, thanks. It's follow us on Twitter at sports_handle. The website is sportshandlealtogether.com, and there's a few other sites in our network that are focusing on some of the states that are pretty active, such as Pennsylvania. So just most of it is available on the Twitter feed. And we are trying to stay on top of all the things that we talked about here. And even actually one of my colleagues did a review of Uncut Gems as well. So anything sports gambling, we're probably covering it.
Cool. Well, I'll say this. If I have $160,000 to spend, I will certainly give it to you to make a parlay at Mohegan Sun for me, okay?
Very reasonable.
when Mohegan Sun has a sports book, I will go there and do that.
Cool. You'll be my guy. Hey, Brett, always appreciate it when you come on, my man. Thank you so much, and look forward to talking to you soon. Okay.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Brett.
There you go. Take care. Brett Smiley from sportshandle.com. Man, he's very knowledgeable. He knows what he's talking about, and this is a very exciting time in the sports gambling industry.
It is insane. The first time we had Brett Smiley on, I think there was 3 states with legalized sports.
Yeah, that was like
Delaware,
about a year and a half ago.
Yeah,
2
West
years
Virginia
ago.
had just done it. New Jersey, Vegas, or Nevada, obviously.
But don't worry, folks.
He's making it sound like there's going to be about 30 states by the end of next year with legalized sports betting, and some big states. Michigan,
but don't worry, folks.
Illinois.
It ain't taking any money away from Las Vegas. I can assure you of that.
It's helpful because all it's doing is the people that have been visiting Vegas and not betting sports, they're now more knowledgeable and it's less taboo. So now when they visit Vegas, they're now betting sports.
They know what they're doing.
Because they're still going to visit Vegas. That's the whole key. Unless the parking fees go up and these goddamn resort fees go up.
Throwing obscenities. I never heard you swear on the show before.
I'm dropping one because I am tired of resort fees.
What a potty mouth.
I have had enough of them.
I've never heard you swear on the show before.
A resort fee, along with the parking, can just decimate a vacation. And I've had family visit here and complained to me multiple times about it. I am tired of resort fees.
So all the things we talk about on our show, all the serious subjects and the horrible things that people say to one another, the decision-making of our politicians, terrorist attacks, shootings, and I've never seen you more angry than when it comes to resort fees and parking in Las Vegas. I just find that interesting. That's all. I've never seen you get that angry.
Well, in my opinion, if they keep it up, it is going to deter traffic from Las Vegas, which is a bad thing for us, for the city, for a lot of people that I'm connected to and that you're connected to.
We've always called that out on this show when they charge for parking. It is ridiculous. It's absurd.
I mean, if you pay a resort fee and you pay for parking and you get dinner on the strip at a decent restaurant, you're looking at $400-$500 for 4 people right now.
The way they do it downtown is the right way.
I totally agree.
If you walk into the casino and you give them any type of business, you could be a $5 blackjack player or you can go to Subway. I don't care. They will stamp your parking pass and you don't have to pay to park. That's the way it should be if you have a Las Vegas, Nevada, if you have a Nevada driver's license. Now, if you're a tourist, forget it. But if you're in Las Vegas and you live here, you should not have to pay to park. That is ridiculous. And these greedy bastards that run some of these casinos, it's a joke. And I'm tired of it. We agree. All right, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, boy, do we have a lot of football and basketball to talk about. Of course, UNLV was in action over the weekend. Pretty good weekend for them. We'll talk a little bit about that. My prediction that San Diego State was going to beat Utah State was correct. They did win that game on the road. And gosh, can you believe who is going to be the next football coach in the NFL for Mr. McCarthy? We're going to talk a little bit about that and some of the big-name quarterbacks that are now out of the playoffs after this weekend. That and much, much more right after this. You're listening to The Vegas Take right here on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN.
As an 18-year-old, I let my mistakes kind of take over my life. I was 0.5 credits away from completing high school, and I didn't do it.
10 years later, at age 28, Jackie finished her high school diploma.
When I found out that I was pregnant, I know that I had to do something for myself if I wanted to make her a better person and provide a better life for her. My family never stopped pushing for me to be better because they knew what I could become and who I could become as a person. My support team is amazing. The educational director, my sister, and even my 7-year-old daughter has just been more than the support that I could ask for. I've been given an opportunity, and I'm just thankful for it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Here is some great news. If you missed the deadline to sign up for health insurance, or if you sign up for a plan that you're just not happy with, you still have a choice. It's called MediShare. It's the affordable alternative to health insurance. And it's worked beautifully for 25 years. They have more than 400,000 members now around the country. MediShare is a Christian healthcare sharing ministry, and over the years, members have shared over $3 billion of each other's medical bills, so they could help share your needs too. And best of all, you could save a lot of money with MediShare. The typical savings for a family is about $500 a month. Your savings could be more or less, but think about what you could do with that extra money every month. You're not stuck with a high-cost health plan. You can join MediShare anytime, so call them today and check it out. Here's the number to find out more, and there's no pressure. They are super easy to talk to. Call 844-91-BIBLE. That's 844-91-BIBLE. 844-91-BIBLE.
Mark Levin, weekdays 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 a.m. KDON.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take. Sharp and Shapiro wrapping up a Monday on the show. And certainly we're going to be talking some football coming up here in just a few minutes. But quickly, want to talk a little UNLV hoops. As you know, they beat Utah State last week, and that was a big game on Wednesday night. And they played, listen, defensively, they're doing a fantastic job. The effort is there, right? We talked about effort, and I said this game doesn't really mean much if they can't beat Air Force over the weekend. And they took care of business. They got off to a slow start. I think Air Force was up 11 at one point, and then UNLV clamped up defensively, took Air Force out of their stuff. And again, I give TJ Otzelberger credit in the fact that they are playing hard. These kids are playing hard, and it seemed, it doesn't seem like it. It is. They've bought into whatever they're working on in practice. Players being held to accountability. I think the one issue that we should mention is that Tillman showed up late to a shoot-around, and he did not play against Air Force. That is a problem. We know that Tillman has had some issues before, and I like the fact that TJ Otzelberger did not play him at all. Forget about not starting him. He was suspended a game.
When you let a guy like Tillman, who has a history of kind of not being the most model player, we'll put it that way, when you let him do things that like be late and show up late, I mean, it creates a poor culture, and it spreads amongst the players. Yeah. And I think Otzelberger recognized that, and he knew that Tillman did these things at his last college. Otherwise, he wouldn't have transferred, because he's a very talented guy. He was a 4-star recruit. He was a highly recruited guy.
But I give Otzelberger credit, and I think a big part of why they're playing harder. I don't think they're doing anything differently offensively. Their offense looks the same.
It does.
And I don't. You could say that Hardy's playing a lot better. He's not forcing shots, and guys are moving the ball around a little better. But this is on the defensive end. Let's just call it for what it is. And it's effort. It's just effort. That's all it is. And TJ held players accountable a few weeks ago. Players weren't starting. Hardy wasn't starting. And I think when you hold players accountable and you do that, and that's the coach's job, he's done his job. And I think that's why the team is playing harder. Keep in mind, they've been winning these games at home. Keep in mind that Utah State didn't really have their top two players. Their starting center was completely out, and Sam Merrill is not healthy. And keep in mind, they played an Air Force team that's awful. They're just not a good basketball team.
And then Utah State was actually beaten by San Diego State a couple days ago.
Yeah, I was going to mention that.
At home, and San Diego State is now ranked number 6 in the country. They're now being discussed as a possible number 1 seed. When's the last time the Mountain West had a 1 seed, Brian, in the tournament?
Not since I've been in this town, that's for sure. But let me, UNLV, I would say is probably the last
1990,
time.
1991.
But I went on this show a month ago, and I'm going to pat myself on the back, because a month ago, when this team was completely underneath the radar, I watched them play at the Orleans. I saw them destroy Creighton. I saw them beat a very good Iowa team. Iowa's a good basketball team. And I said to myself, and I rarely ever say this, right? I've said this about some Gonzaga teams. I've said this about some number 1 teams before. I've said this about some good teams. Maybe a couple teams a year I'll say this. But I do not personally believe that San Diego State has any weaknesses. Here's what I mean by that. They got this transfer Flynn, who is, as far as I'm concerned, by far the best point guard in the conference. Flynn is he is unbelievable. Okay, you've got physical players down low. Shakel, who is, I think he's like an 8th-year senior. He never misses. He's an unbelievable shooter. And then you got guys down low. You got 3 or 4 guys that are 6'6", 6'7", or bigger that are really, really talented.
Try 6'10".
Yeah, and then
Mensa, and Wetzel are 6'9", 6'10", 6'10".
And I love this kid. He is my favorite player in the conference, and that is Matt Micheal.
Right.
Micheal is a guy that comes off the bench, yet he's playing 30 minutes a game. I don't know why he doesn't start. Micheal is and he's a great kid too, by the way. I was talking to some friends yesterday, a couple D1 coaches that just say what a great kid this kid Micheal is. So he comes off the bench. This is a guy that can shoot the 3. This is a guy that's physical, and I believe he's an NBA prospect. He'll certainly be getting paid to play basketball somewhere, and he's coming off the bench. Are you kidding me?
And he has a nice game. He's decent off the dribble. He's got a nice shot. He's kind of built like a baby Charles Barkley. So he's an interesting player
So
as well.
anyway-
And then they have KJ Fegan, who was the best, who was the number one scorer for Santa Clara last year, who transferred over.
He's struggling a little bit to score this year, but he's a very talented player.
Very
We can agree
talented.
on that. He's pretty good on both ends of the floor. So San Diego State could very well be. Listen, I'm going to say this right now, and I know everyone's going to think I'm crazy. I think San Diego State runs the table. I'm not sure they lose a game in the Mountain West Conference.
The conversation right now is 28-1. And if they go 28-1, they will be a number one seed. If they go undefeated, they are absolutely they'll be the top seed if they go undefeated, in my opinion.
This is certainly
because
a
I think
team.
Gonzaga is going to fall a couple of times. They've had leads. Well, they've been behind against Portland and a couple of teams at home and Pepperdine a couple of times.
That's going to happen, and they could they could have one or two bad nights.
I'm not sure San Diego State's had one. They had one game where they won by 1 point against San Jose State.
I don't think Utah State.
That was their worst game.
I don't think Utah State can compete with this team unless they're 100% healthy. And I'm
do
not sure
think
that's going to happen.
one of the reasons why UNLV is being so successful is because Marvin Coleman, this walk-on who comes off.
So that's a good example.
Who's now getting some time, who's appreciating every single minute he gets. He had 6 points, 10 boards, and 6 assists.
No, he's playing hard
against Utah or against Air Force.
Let's give this kid credit. He is named the Mountain West Men's Basketball Player of the Week, and that is UNLV's Bryce Hamilton. He has done a fantastic job in playing a lot more minutes, and Hamilton is another kid who's really improving. So I give them credit where credit is due. I gave them credit when they beat Utah State. I give them credit over the weekend. We hope it continues. I picked UNLV to finish 5th in conference, and I said if it's a really good year, maybe they get an NIT invite. I still don't think that's going to happen, but you never know. They started off 3-0 in conference, but it's a long season, and there's a lot of games. Let's see if they can maintain this type of level of consistency, at least on the effort factor. Quickly, we only got about 2 minutes here left. Actually, we have less than 2 minutes. We got about a minute and a half, but didn't get a lot of time to talk NFL today. But Patriots lose and the Saints lose, and McCarthy is a coach in the NFL again. Quickly, your comments on that.
Mike McCarthy just was hired by the Dallas Cowboys to precede Jason Garrett. I think that's a good situation for him. He's a very, very imaginative offensive mind. He does well with quarterbacks. Dak Prescott needs some help. He won a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. He needs to hire a good defensive coordinator. Also, I think Tom Brady ends up a Los Angeles Charger in 2020.
No chance he becomes a Raider. No chance.
Absolutely not. I hope not. I hope he's not a Raider.
Why would you say you hope not?
You think you want Tom Brady to be a Raider? You
Yes,
do?
I do.
I mean, all
Yes,
right.
I do.
You know what? I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say I hope not.
Arguably
for his sake, I hope he ends up a Charger for the NFL's sake, because the NFL needs those tickets. They need to sell. They need LA to be a big time team. That'll be great for the ratings. That'll be good for the NFL. So
Be great for the Raiders.
for the NFL's sake. And for us too,
There's at least a 5% chance he becomes a Raider. I think.
You think
5%.
you actually believe that?
Yeah, I do. I think
Wow.
there's a 5%.
I think he's a Charger. He's from California.
He's going to play in California.
His family lives there. He's a West Coast guy. I think he gets up in the West Coast.
All right, well, another show wrapped up in the books. By the way, check out our website, thevegastake.com. Also, our YouTube page, The Vegas Take. We're all over the place. We're on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. We're all over the place, so be sure to check us out. Thanks to our guests, Micheal Avenatti and Brett Smiley. We were going to take a 21-hour break. We'll be back at you tomorrow, bright and early, folks. Have a great afternoon. Sean Hannity is coming up next.
The only FM news talk station in the Valley.